podcast जो हम कभी भी weekly करते नहीं हैं. Today I have an esteemed guest with me. I think for the second time, Geeta ma'am.
Yes.
Not on my show, but I'm hosting her for the second time. One was on Dinesh's show, and basically I'll tell you how this particular podcast came into why we are doing this. Because I was speaking to Geeta ma'am on Twitter Spaces, and Geeta ma'am said. I think we should discuss this more on a platform base so that people can understand. Understand what? Understand basically China. Now, to give you a bit of segue, Geeta ma'am is a very renowned professor from the JNU. JNU जो कभी कभी दूसरे नामों से भी फेमस है बट वहाँ काफ़ी अच्छा काम भी होता है so she's from JNU and she is an expert on China Fair. She is quite proficient in the Mandarin language, even though Geeta ma'am keeps correcting me. आजकल उसे Mandarin नहीं बोलते हैं. Geeta ma'am will tell you over the course of time आजकल क्या बोलते हैं, क्यों बोलते हैं. That was she was teaching me. And then she told me कि I think we should do a broadcast. Basically, there are a lot of myths about China, and we should be we should tell people what actually China is all about. And I just realized I never ended up changing the title of the show. It is still Demystifying China, but let it be. Okay, so it was kept a different name, but it ended up somehow I forgot to change the title. But it's we want to break the stereotyping जो इंडिया में होती है about China and what China is actually about. Geeta ma'am has actually lived in China for a fairly long time. So her experiences are based on her real life experience living in China, interacting with them over years. And I think it'll be good to understand from her viewpoint and also try to tell people what really China is and how we are wrong or how we are right on it. I don't know. As we progress, maybe I will also get educated. So welcome, Geeta ma'am. Thank you for accepting my invite on this one. And with that, the floor is yours. अगर आपको कुछ start करना है before I start asking you questions, but the floor is yours, ma'am. मैं आपको ना बड़ा कर देता हूँ, मैं छोटा हो जाता हूँ. Oh, sorry, उल्टा. How do I switch here? Please, ma'am, go ahead.
Namaste to all your viewers, and namaste to everyone who's watching this show. Yes, the purpose is basically to break those myths, the notions that have been created, the narratives that are floating. And I find, especially in India, when I listen to people, there are two extremes of how they know China. Either they are overly praising China, they are going gaga about China, they went to China to do business or just to travel, and they saw this, flashy buildings, clean roads, and they're just thinking, wow, China is a different world than India. Or there is another extreme which is always criticizing China and saying, okay, everything in China is bad. China is this bad. China is, they are eating non-veg all the time. Excuse me for my throat. And so I'll take 2 minutes break. You just carry on.
No. I said the cold is getting you. Nothing more than that. देखो हमारे I live in the other part of the world. जब तक Geeta ma'am is getting this. I live in the other part of the world. Yeah, here I am sweating. And यहाँ पर गीता मैम के लिए सर्दी है. कैंगूलैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया में अभी गर्मी है because it is when you have winter we have summer, when we have summers you have winters. The earth rotates left and right, मतलब आगे पीछे. So we are enjoying summers and you are having the cold winters. I'll give you credit. आपने स्वेटर भी नहीं पहनी.
No, it's not. It's not that cold today.
अच्छा.
So that was the reason I could sit. I think there's some problem with the throat. I was a bit down earlier with fever and everything, so just recovering.
With the great AQI of Delhi, no wonder you are coughing. Huh? Let's not get into that. Let's not get into the AQI bit. But coming back to the point,
yeah,
I'll ask you a basic question.
Yeah.
Why China? What prompted you to get into this field of China, means how did your journey start? Right? Because if you ask me, people will try to do Europe, people will try to do US, and you've
Hmm.
been there for a long time. So
Yeah.
when you would have started this journey, it wouldn't have been a very attractive option or something like that. Yeah, coming looking at now, I would say that you were highly
Hmm.
progressive. You could foresee what others couldn't. But what was your thought process? How did you end up learning about China, the Chinese culture, the language? It's so different, right?
Yeah.
Nah, the two three things I know is ni hao. That gets me along everywhere. But about how did the journey start?
Yes, so it started because I wanted to do something beyond normal, education, which is like graduation, doing whatever the people were doing. And then there were people who were telling my parents, especially, my father knew some people who had some knowledge about Chinese language, and they were saying Chinese is the toughest language in the world, and it's very challenging. And then they, were just telling your daughter cannot do and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little this thing, and I told my father, if he can do it, his daughter can do it. Why is that your daughter can't do it? So my
Fair
father
enough.
was saying, he was like a little more cautious about it. He says, you know, okay, you want to do language, but nobody in our family knows this language, and I'm not going to support you anyway. If you fail, then you fail. Then live wherever you are. Don't come back crying and saying, oh, I couldn't succeed in my life because I chose this language, which is so tough. I couldn't study. There's not going to be any tuitions for you here. So all that is a challenge. Had it been something else, I can still support you. I can find people who will help you out, but with this, no. So I was like, it's okay, I'll take it as a challenge and let me just try it out. And thankfully it was not a bad journey. It started as a very tough journey, of course. It was very challenging to study and all of that, but gradually I was the topper of the university, so I think I made it relatively okay, and my father was happy with that. And then after the language, I thought, I have to, I mean, I was a little inquisitive about not just the language and culture, but knowing more about it. And then in between, I had traveled to China. I stayed there for 2 years. So I was like more keen on knowing things which people will want to understand beyond just the language and culture, and contribute something concrete for the state as well. So I shifted to doing my, MPhil. That time we had MPhil. Now it is scrapped. That is, and then my doctorate, right? My PhD. And there I started to explore more about other aspects of China, the urban culture, the urbanization processes, and things like that. And gradually, I have moved into international relations. That was my PhD from where I got School of International Studies, JNU, and know more about China India relations. And now I'm looking at China India and China Nepal relations as well. So it's and off and on. I went to China. I stayed there in between as well for long durations, for research purposes, for conferences, and that's how I traveled across China. Went with the people, trying to know their life, understanding how China works, their psychology, their movement. It's that kind of a journey.
So if I go back to your initial starting point when you were studying these, so you basically started with languages, right? You have to
Yes,
understand the language. So
yeah,
I understand JNU has a very big language area. It's one of the best in India. At least जब आप थे तो at that time it was one of the best places to learn about China, Chinese language, Mandarin I will say, more or less. That point of time, were they also talking about the culture and all those things, or it was just the language? Did you get that? Was it the whole thing was a total, giving you a total glimpse of what China, the culture is, what the people are, what is the geopolitical situation at that point of time, or was it only the language?
so when I was studying here as student, language and culture and everything, we were taught the culture, but that culture was only the festivals. Okay,
Okay.
we were only taught basic Chinese. And so our Chinese were not very great, to the extent that the day I landed in China and started to interact with the local Chinese, it was very difficult because one, the vocabulary was very limited for us.
Mm-hmm.
Two, we were talking very bookish things which the Chinese
Mm-hmm.
did not understand. And three, there were challenges about how you can learn the local things, many of the things which had changed over a period of time. So we didn't know about that. So there was no understanding about the new things that were happening in China.
Mm-hmm.
We only studied the culture in the sense of this traditional, very typical, culture, in terms of only festivals like the Spring Festival, the Dragon Boat Festival, all those positive things. And even the language, when we taught through that medium, it was very old, like 50s or 60s. What kind of scenario was there? So we learned about this Tatsu Pao, that is the great banners or posters that were there during the Cultural Revolution in China. That in the language. Whereas the time we went, China was already reformed, right? And they were not even talking about it. There was no posters. You could hardly see any posters. So it was a different China I was facing, and different from
I,
what you
I,
are
I,
studying from books.
I've seen those posters. They basically are glorifying the Communist Party, where they are
Mm,
showing that one side there is this farmer and the other side there is the military guy, and they will take
mm.
the world over
Yeah.
with the communist one. This is all glorifying. That was kind of the way of basically hiding the fact that so many people are dying of famine and all those kind of things. And if you see, the
Mm,
timeline is very similar to those. And the similar thing, you would see it in North Korea as well. North Korea still
yeah.
being very largely a communist state. So this propaganda war was quite relevant at that point of time. And these
Mm,
posters and these so-called songs glorifying the Communist Party was quite common at that point of time. If you see now, you have access to those videos or the films they produced. It was all
mm,
about somehow the boy and the girl will sacrifice because the boy wants to go for the Communist Party and
mm.
work and all those kind of things. I've seen few of those. And they were all about that. So you were still taught that. While what was that guy who started the whole revolution in the 80s with Nixon and all those things? What was that guy's name?
You're
Uh,
talking about the reform person, Tang Xiaoping?
yeah, Deng Xiaoping. Yeah, so Deng Xiaoping had totally radically changed the whole Chinese economy, the way of thinking and everything. But JNU was still on the old one. So would I be wrong to say that the language or the stuff you learned was so bookish that it was irrelevant in the modern times? Is it still the case?
Yeah. Partially, yes. And also, because we only learned about the Chinese, culture and their, say for example, if you have to get to bus or something, we never understand the normal life. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
we did not even learn Indian things to communicate in Chinese. So we are
Mm-hmm.
learning a language where I cannot communicate anything about myself to them, but
Yeah.
I can listen to what they are saying to us. So if I have to
Right.
communicate them about my problems, that was never taught in the books. So books were actually produced and published in China. So they had everything about the Chinese that they would want to tell to the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But probably if I want to say about my health issues, if I go to China and I want to travel around, you know, how do I do that?
Right.
All these things were never there. Of course, now things have changed. We have changed the, some of the books and everything. But this was the scenario at that point of time. Uh,
Okay.
and
Right.
so even if you
Were you
knew the
getting
language, you were
any
handicapped.
Chinese people coming from there? Because see, I worked at a lot of universities in Australia, and there is a concept of Confucius societies in where they
Confucius
have these
Institute, yeah, yeah,
institutes, like we have them in Australia as well. I've
yeah,
worked in few
right,
of them,
right.
and they even give these what do you call grants and all those things, which are for their own
Mm,
Chinese students and for research and all those things, where the criteria, they have specific criteria. Obviously one of the main criteria is that the person has to be of Chinese origin, and they vet it, and they are the criteria. Because I worked at one of the institutes where we were looking at grants. So one of the grants was coming from the Chinese government, and they told me one of their criteria is that there are few criteria. It has to be in this segment, this segment. Obviously, number one criteria, it's only available for people coming from China. I think it was mainland and maybe Hong Kong or this. I think it was only for mainland at that point of time. So they already you. I assume that there was nothing like that in JNU. Is there something like that now happening where you actually have this Confucius Institutes in India, or it's been blocked by the government from day one?
So we don't have Confucius Institute.
Mm-hmm.
There was a talk in JNU. They had, given us some funds to
Mm-hmm.
establish Confucius Institute after having
Mm-hmm.
negotiations with Delhi University. Uh, so JNU had agreed in principle. So an MOU sort of thing was passed,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
final implementation did not happen due to many reasons. And I don't want to cite all
Right.
of these reasons, but finally did
Right.
not materialize.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, I mean, the time I was a student, we had certain professors, especially one of our founding professors was the Thanchung, who was basically a son of Tan Yun Shan, who was the founder of Shanti Niketan, where language is taught, Chinese language is taught, Chinese language and culture, same thing. So he was there with his wife, and he was like a mentor to all the professors at that point of time. And then we also had a visiting professor from Beijing University. So somehow it was a little balanced, but yet unfortunately I did not have the opportunity to learn a lot from Professor Than. But with the one who was visiting professor, I had certain some classes, but he was given restricted classes, so we were learning like how to write an essay in Chinese, some things like that. So, or write an application in Chinese. So those things were taught by him, and then later a little bit of translation. And he left after a year. So, and now we don't have Chinese teachers. So for years we don't have. So there are no Chinese teachers who are teaching here. That's of course a drawback. Yeah.
So can you not get can you not get people from Taiwan?
So we have an MOU from Taiwan,
Uh-huh.
and earlier there was a faculty, but we faced certain problems with them also, and so it's all in the process, right?
In the process. Okay. Now let's move ahead from this. This was your JNU journey, and interesting to see how it is right now. So I'm quite intrigued because JNU being one of the premier places for people to learn Chinese. Because again, I'm going back to when I talk about from a Australian perspective. Australia has got a very huge amount of international students coming. Australian institutes basically
Yeah,
live on international students, right?
yeah,
Biggest bunch is China. The second biggest is India, and there is a huge difference between Chinese and Indians, like more than half, and that's where their money spinners are. And there is there even in Australia, you now have in schools option to learn Mandarin because
mm,
they see that if you learn Mandarin, it might be more beneficial for you to learn rather than learning German or French or this because that will be the second best language if you want to do business or anything like that
mm,
because
mm,
Australians have a lot of business with China. We were one of their uh, uh, China was one of our main trading partner. I won't say the other way around, right? So because of raw material, we got huge amount of coal, we got huge amount of iron, copper, and all those kind of things. So which we export, and so a lot of people are taking sending their kids to learn Chinese, right? So that
mm,
not Mandarin, so that they can. Sorry, I have to keep correcting myself. There is nothing called Chinese language. There's either Mandarin or Cantonese, right? So anybody who says, "Hey, do you know Chinese?" is wrong. Either says Mandarin or Cantonese. Mandarin being the main one. So they're learning Mandarin classes, and so Australia had a very big push on this because they do see that this is a viable option. Now, the point is that you did your education, right? And then how did you move to China? Like, how did that opportunity come? Because I'm curious, like, from an Indian viewpoint, right? How did you manage to go to China? Like, how was that opportunity? This is for people who want to learn these languages, because there is option. You can travel abroad and actually interact with them. So maybe it might
Mm.
be a good way of selling your JNU stuff. A lot of people might come. So how did
So,
that happen?
okay, so for the language, I mean, first let's break this myth about, it's Mandarin or it's Cantonese. I think China has moved beyond Mandarin and Cantonese. And even then, Mandarin was basically based on the Beijing dialect. So it was the dialect which we call it as. But of course, because it was commonly known as Mandarin, everyone thought it is a Mandarin language everyone learns. And I did learn that. And I did not know other dialects. So the Cantonese were the other dialect. And there are other dialects as well. But now, because Chinese have changed this concept, they only called it as Standard Chinese, or in Chinese they call it as Putonghua. So Putonghua is the language which is common whether you go to mainland China, whether you go to Hong Kong, whether you go to Macau, or you go to even Taiwan. Okay, so they do not call the Taiwanese do not call it as Putonghua, but that's the Chinese, right? And the only difference in going to Macau and Hong Kong and Taiwan is that the script they use is classical Chinese, which is the old Chinese, and in mainland China they have simplified the Chinese characters, and so it is much more simpler to learn. Right now, in terms of going to China, I fortunately had this opportunity because at that point of time we used to have we had an MOU with China, the Indian government and the Chinese government, and 12 of our students from India used to travel to China, and Chinese students used to come into India for various fields. And language and culture was one out of that. So every year, out of those 12, maximum two students were selected. And fortunately, I could clear those interviews and everything and got that scholarship. But now, of course, that is reduced a lot. We have the CSC, that is the China scholarship, which is given by the Chinese government. So people travel with that, and this government to government scholarship is quite less. But yes, still there. So you get much more funding in terms of the money. At that time, the scholarship amount was very less, but we could easily survive. We had all the facilities to live there in China.
So controversial question. After the Galwan crisis and the other crisis, has the scholarship and these taken a hit by, or nothing has happened on that?
So after the Galwan crisis, because the trust deficit is very low and still very low, um, we we do see there was a dip in the kind of exchanges that were happening, especially of the students also. But students now are going into China. The Indian students, I'm saying, are going in China in various fields, right? They're not just going on government scholarships. They're or also not relying just on Chinese scholarships. They're also going for medical and other fields, right? Even for traveling. So that also got a dip. Of course, scholarships also got a dip. There was reduced number, but now I think we are reviving all of that. So there's a change back to normalcy. We are hitting a new normal sort of a situation, I would say, where we still have the trust deficit, but the people to people exchanges are gradually going up.
Gradually going up. So when you first time moved there, right? So how many years back would that be?
Long back, decades
Okay,
back.
like decades back, right? Well, let's say around 2 decades back, right? I'll just make a wild guess,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
What was your first what was your first opinion? Where you obviously would have gone with a mindset, right, of what China is, especially how we used to view China, and when you landed, and then I'll come to it that over the years, whenever you have gone back, like I want to see the progression because it will be progression only.
Yeah.
When you saw there, so I want to see it from your eyes, how you saw China evolve into the, what is that, the Goliath it has become now, right? The second world economy. At that time, it might have been seventh or eighth at that point of time, or maybe even lesser. I don't know. But now it's become, or the GDP at that point of time wasn't far off from India, so it was quite
Mm.
similar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that evolution. What was the first experience what you saw, and then slowly, if we can go, what has happened over the years and how it has changed, and then we will go more later on. We'll go more into the aspect of how you have seen people changing, right?
Mm.
As they have become more advanced, things like that. Is there a change in the people attitude, or have they become more modern? What is the has the culture changed? Because I interact with a lot of Chinese here, and to a large extent, I find their culture is very similar to Indians, right?
Mm.
Especially when it comes to taking care of your parents and all those kind of things. They still like it's very similar to India. But how have you seen it changed when the communist sentiments were still very high versus now, which is more of a capitalist economy kind. So how that changed? So if you could start on that, and we will then I will then keep interjecting you because I know this is a long drawn answer. But please go ahead. I would love to hear your answer on it.
So, so China, I mean, we'll talk about the people later. Let's talk about how I landed there and how China was at that point of time. It was also opening up, opening to what they call it as reform and opening up, opening the doors to the outside world and reforming. So I see a lot of similarities in terms of what India, has gone for the past 10 years to what China went at that point of time. Um, and it was it was a different China, completely different China. Okay, from the perspective of once I landed there, of course I was not very. Um, I had learned a lot for 4 years about China language culture, but I had not been able to make that image of China because in JNU, although there were many Chinese that time because our relationships were much more better, we had a lot of interactions with them, but we never had the image about what China could be. Is it going to be a closed door, whether we'll have challenges moving around or not? And thankfully, I was helped by some Chinese to get into from Beijing to other places. I did not land up. I was not studying first in Beijing. I was studying in Liaoning, which is northeastern part of China. So for 1 year I was there, and second year I was in Beijing. So once I landed there, it was sort of a cultural shock, a sort of uneasiness to move around for various reasons. Starting from the first shock came like I landed there around 5 or something, 4 or 5 to Liaoning. Uh, Put my bags in a hostel, finished everything, and then opened some of my baggages and everything. And by the time I could move out, step out, just to see if I can have something to eat, I realized it was already 6:30 or something, and there was nothing to eat. Absolutely nothing. And because I was not carrying my food there, I was not carrying cooked food or something, cooked meal or something. And then I realized all the there is supposed to be a mess which is closed by that time. There is no food, there are no restaurants out there, so you couldn't go out and eat anything. And people were not there on the roads to help you out for anything. And then somehow I could find ask somebody and find out something, some place where I can get some bread or something, which was also very difficult in the universities. So there was one shop. They told me, okay, there is one shop where you can get your groceries and basic things. So you go and ask there. So somehow I went there, and there was hardly anything to eat, and there was only the breads were not so common in China. So, and especially in Liaoning, it was not common. So I had a lot of difficulty, and somehow I could get like a bun sort of thing, and I just managed that for 1 or 2 kwai, and then again currency was a problem, so that's okay. I still had something to manage it up, and and then I realized the second cultural shock was, and people would laugh at that. The second cultural shock was the toilets. You see, I mean the Chinese toilets were so very
They are desi toilets, huh? They are
not
desi
just that,
toilets.
not just that.
What
I mean,
देसी टॉयलेट्स यार स्कॉट वाले हैं तो मतलब See, what do you say to toilets? They see everybody uses that. See, ये JNU supremacy, हाँ अंग्रेजी टॉयलेट वाले लोग आ
No,
गए
no,
यहाँ
no,
पर,
no.
हाँ.
No, no, no. It was not just about that. It's not the desi toilet. It's about tissue papers. It is what about doors on your,
Oh yeah.
on in your
Is it
toilet.
is it
Toilet.
actually true? I've seen few videos where they have
Absolutely,
these toilets
absolutely.
lined up, but there are no doors. Why? What is
Yes.
that?
So when I had to go to bathroom to take a shower and there was no toilet, I mean there was no door in that, I was like, how am I supposed to take a shower in this? You know, I mean, of course, my floor in the hostel that they gave me was a all women, and the
All
sixth
women.
floor I was in.
All women.
Yeah, all women, but the sixth floor was all men. So that is a cultural shock for me coming from India, where men and women have so much of segregation. And I suddenly realized, the foreigners, and it was a foreigners building, okay, specifically foreigners building. So, I mean, I thought any sixth floor man can always, just come up, and there was no restriction or then movement anyway. And the bathroom doesn't have a door. So I asked this lady
Do you
who
mean to
was,
say the main bathroom didn't even have a door?
yes.
Okay, this is
So
interesting.
that is something, right?
It's like an honor. It's like an honor system that, yeah, you would not be peeping, you know.
So, so I said it was a cultural shock, right? So I asked this lady who was like the helper who was cleaning and everything. We call her I,
Yeah, yeah,
and like an aunt or something. So she
yeah,
was very sweet, very, very sweet. Okay.
yeah.
So she came and I asked her, I said, where is the door on this? And she was like, door? Why do you need a door there? I was like, I'm supposed to take a bath, right? So I need something to cover this up. And she was like, cover? Why do you need to cover? You just take a bath. Nobody's going to come. I said, I know nobody's going to come. I mean, even other girls might come. And so for me, who was coming from Delhi, and fortunately or unfortunately, my parents, kept me in a house where we have independent toilets and bathrooms, and we were like in a closed place, and we had all the facilities. I was born like pampered like a queen with my parents. So suddenly I get this shock where I don't any woman can walk in. I mean, for me, even my sister walking in would be a strange thing. And there you have any woman is only going to walk, and men are not going to come here. And it was very casual for them. So finally, I made her understand, no, you have to have something. So I got her to bring some cloth and put in a wire. And yet I was not comfortable, right? So she made it for me, and then I realized there were all Japanese girls along with me, and they're Korean girls. My roommate was a Korean, sorry, Ukrainian, and there were Korean girls also on the floor, and Koreans and Japanese have no problem, so they were very comfortable with all of this stuff, and I was like, no. So that was also a shock. And then of course, you realize, because you can't eat anything, that itself was like I had to talk to people. What do I eat with one pav? And then I had to boil water, and there was no facility for tea or anything. So I had known before going to China that you would need some tea or something. So I had carried my black tea, but I mean, carrying your tea does not really make sense because you
Okay,
need
but
milk,
no, no.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, you have to have a differentiation for the others to understand. China has a multitude of teas, right? Like the blooming bud tea, the jasmine tea, the green
Hmm.
tea, the what is that? The sunflower. उसका भी वो
Yeah,
चाय होती है, and there are like 50 different
all
type of
flowers,
teas.
definitely.
For them, tea doesn't mean the milk one which we are used to.
Yes,
they
yes,
have they have so many different type of teas, and once you get used to that, you will understand that that actually is more healthy and better, and that's the reason why you basically make this green tea into this black thing, and it's become so kadwa, and that's why you have to put sugar into it, and you realize that
yeah.
that's why you have acidity with the Indian tea. And so, but yeah, we're
So
used to this kind of a tea.
so
So
I had, by chance, I had carried some sugar and some black black tea, or whatever red, red label tea or whatever you say.
Tea or
But
milk? Were you okay to getting milk because they're more into
that
soy
is what I'm
milk,
saying.
right?
No, that is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You did not get the milk. So
Ah,
in
yeah.
the store, you don't have the milk to buy, and so you don't have milk
I would
means
I would have told you the ninja technique. You should have gone to the place where they give infant milk and get the infant milk and use that as a milk replacement
yeah.
because
So I mean, we learned all of these things later, but initially it was like such a cultural shock that you don't get milk. How do you make tea? You know. So I had to
right.
manage with one pav and a boiled tea with my sugar. And thankfully, I had some milk powder. So I just added some milk powder. But that did not really work well because tea for us, after such a long journey, I had to travel so long. There were no direct flights at that point of time. So I had to transfer from Hong Kong to Beijing. And from Beijing, I had to take a train to go to Liaoning.
I
By
can
the
smell
time,
the I can smell the privileged Papa ki pari feels here, but that's okay. That's okay.
so it was like, what am I supposed to do? And I literally, sat down. I was like, oh God, where am I stuck? And the time I landed in Beijing, one of our, friends, or Chinese, who was the final, next to ambassador in India, in Delhi. He was posted here. He had helped a little bit, and taken us for some dinner. And my friend who went with me, she could eat all non-veg. She was from Bengal. I could eat non-veg, like chicken and all, but that was another second shock. When they took us for dinner, I realized, okay, I can eat. I mean, I was confident at least I can manage with chicken. So there's no problem. So I said, I can eat chicken, I can eat, mutton, and I don't eat fish at that point of time. So I can still manage. But the moment chicken came, I couldn't eat because chicken was with all skin. And in India, we have
Ah,
never eaten with skin. So I was like, and it was smelling. For me, it was like a awful taste and smell. And my the Chinese was like really laughing because they thought you are a vegetarian. I said I'm not a vegetarian, but this is really difficult for me to eat. So I managed with boiled rice. With rice also was not very good because I was used to eat basmati chawal as a Punjabi.
sticky rice, the jasmine rice,
Yes,
sticky rice.
yes,
That
yeah.
that
It
is
was so
different. Yeah.
sticky, and and then I had to put some soya sauce or something like that. And it was not spicy at all. In Beijing also, the food at that point was completely bland. Completely, you just had hardly taste of salt, and not even that. Okay, so
नहीं तो
it was
you should have gone to the Manchurian area ना वहाँ पर तो you would have got
no
more
that time.
spicier.
That time there were no restaurants like that. There was not very so popular. That's what I'm saying. So it was like a complete talk. You have to. So next day they told me, okay, you can go and eat in the mess, and these are the timings. And when I realized the timings, I said, this is the time. I mean, you have to get up early in the morning and have your
Right.
breakfast, which is till 8 o'clock, and your lunch time is from 11:30, and your dinner time is from 5:30. So like, what will happen? I have to eat at 9 o'clock or 9:30. There's nothing available. You keep some bread, or you keep whatever you want, or like not a bread, but like pav or something, or which you got mantho or something.
Right.
Mantho is like a bun. Okay, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that bun that you can take, or you survive with the whatever the Chinese are giving. And we didn't know so much of Chinese food, and I was not very fond of it. So those kind of cultural shocks was there. But another good thing which I realized was this ai that I'm talking about, that auntie. She was very very hardworking. I mean, she was climbing on the on the on we had a kitchen, like a common kitchen was provided to us. So in that kitchen you had these windows on top and everything. She used to really climb and clean everything. So she was very good in cleaning and everything, and she used to perform her duty so very diligently that I used to wonder that at this age, like she was around 70 plus at that point of time, 65 or 70 or something. She looked like that at least, but may not, I don't know the actual age. So at 65 or 70, this old lady, and she's doing so much of dedicated work and everything. So that was my first, thing. But after a few days, we started to, know about places to eat and meet people. But then the moment I started wearing my dresses, then again, I was like, you have come into a zoo and you are the one whom everyone is going to look at you in a different manner. So I was wearing a suit, you know, though I used to wear Indian dresses very less, but like, yeah, I was wearing a suit or anything. And these Chinese, the eyes who were cleaning on the floors, first impression was them. Okay, they caught me, and it's like, what is this dress? It's a unique dress that you're wearing. And I had a jutti, a Punjabi jutti with in my feet. So they first look at the jutti, and then they literally pulled my kurta up to see how this salwar is made. And I was like, in front of everyone, you're pulling my kurta up. What is this? I mean, um, we have a sense of shame. So that sense of shame
Did
was
you
literally.
teach them the legendary technique of nada? Huh? How to tie a nada? I don't know. If I ever have to go and wear कुर्ता पजामा ना, मैं क्या वो इलास्टिक डाल दे भाई, मैं तो वो स्ट्रगल ही करता रहता हूँ.
So
देर
for
से
us,
करियो.
that so I realized that the sense of shame among them and us is completely different. They don't have that so very common.
Right.
So they could just pull my dresses here and there and check it. And I had to keep on telling them, please don't do this, please don't do that, please don't do this. So I was like literally trying to tell them that this is not done. A woman feels very odd. But by the time me and my friends, and the university had that day organized a trip to the central market, which is the main market where you can buy all of the
Yeah, yeah,
things. So they wanted
yeah,
to show us this is the place. Okay. So the bus
yeah.
was there. We all the foreigners, we loaded in that bus. We went to that place. And then, they gave us free hand. Okay, you move around, check whatever you like and whatever the market is all about. And then once you're finished, you come back, and this is the time that by that time you have to come. So as I said, my friend was from my roommate was from Ukraine, so we two went together. And so we were just roaming around looking at things, and of course I'll tell you about the things later. Everyone can know about what all was available, but of course there was no milk items, no paneer, no milk. So there was soya milk, but not other milk items. There was, of course, no haldi and everything. They never used to have that. There was nothing of the vegetables were very limited. Okay, so we had very limited kind of vegetables. Rice, as you told, sticky rice. There were no pulses except rajma was there, and one black, which we have like a pahadi dal in India. So some kind of that dal. So pulses were only like that, and rest they had their own non-veg, a variety of non-veg, and they were like silkworms in the vegetables, so you can just buy the silkworms which are live. And I was like very uncomfortable looking as those things to eat.
The white colored ones, na?
Yes,
They're very soft
but
to
the
press, huh?
funniest incident I cannot forget in my life was the time that we had to come back to get on the bus. So the moment we moved out, there were these two guys who were standing there, and they were looking at my dress and everything, and one said, I'm from
Yeah.
Xinjiang, the other said she's from India. So the knowledge at that time, I'm trying to just explain you how Chinese view the world. They had completely no idea about the world. Okay, so for them, I was either from Xinjiang, and the other was like, no, she's from India, And so they started, betting. So there was this bet that they said.
शिंगचैन प्रोविंस इज वो जो वीगर वाला कहाँ है, मतलब
Yes,
वेयर इज शिंगचैन, वही है ना? बिकॉज
yes,
द रीजन व्हाई दे वुड हैव सेड दैट इज बिकॉज वो वहां से वो टर्किश वो
yes.
जीनोलॉजी है, सो दे डोंट लुक चाइनीज.
They
एंड
don't
दैट
look
इज,
like.
और गोरे चिट्टे
Yeah.
तो आप वैसे ही हो, गोरे चिट्टे वैसे ही हो,
So
तो सो दे मेड दैट कनेक्शन.
so they made and because I was wearing an Indian suit, right,
नहीं
with
नहीं,
the
उनके भी
jutti and
इफ यू लुक एट
Punjabi.
द ट्रेडिशनल
Yeah,
ड्रेस ना,
so
वो
they
काफी ब्राइट लाइक,
काफी bright hota hai.
हाँ हाँ, वो काफी
And my
ब्राइट
dress
होता है.
was also very bright pink, as Punjabis do,
दिल्ली वाले हो ना,
So
दिल्ली वाले पंजाबी,
uh,
यू आर लाइक लाउड फ्रॉम अ किलोमीटर.
kilometer,
हाँ.
literally. So they just
वो
told us,
गोल
and
वाली, वो गोल वाली वो भी तो नहीं थी शीशे वाले, हाँ, लश्कारे मारते
the,
जो.
thankfully that was not there. So I was not wearing very typical Punjabi, but it was a suit. It was a plain suit, okay,
या
with a jutti, of course. And they like they were like, उन्होंने तो भैया अपना जैसे as Chinese are, उन्होंने तो अपना शर्त वर्त लगाना शुरू कर दिया कि okay, we are having a bet. she's from here and there, and they caught hold of me and said, you tell us, where are you from? So I said, you guess where I'm from. So one said Xinjiang, the other said India. So I laughed and I said, no, I'm from India. Now the person who lost, and because I was speaking in Chinese, he didn't want to believe it. So he said, you are telling lies. And they started to fight. And the fight was such that they did not let us go, because they had to like stop me and confess that, yes, I'm from Xinjiang and I'm not from India. And in this drama, there were few of the other Chinese who gathered around us because there was this loud fighting, and then we were there, and we were stuck with them.
मतलब आप कह रहे हो कि इंडिया हो या चाइना, लड़ाई हो रही हो, मोहल्ला जमा हो जाता है.
And no, but the mohalla was also Jama because we were two foreigners, and for them to see these foreigners was very strange.
अच्छा.
So these people gathered around us and they started to literally, I mean, then that was the time I really felt very odd, because that was the time they were like almost 30, 40 people around, all men and women, all of them. And they, each one of them started to pull our dresses, both of ours. And she was not wearing a very traditional dress. Pull our dresses to check what is this dress. So I was like like in a zoo, if you are there, people start to push you here and pull you there, kind of thing. And somebody is pulling my kurta to check what is down. Somebody is pulling, because it was a Patiala salwar. So Patiala salwar is supposed to be a different kind of salwar. So they're pulling and trying to find out, and then how it is tied. And in the open space, it's in the complete market space, and we are surrounded, and we know that we were getting late, and they're not letting us go out. And they want to know questions about what is this called, what is that called, and what is this bindi, how bindi, why do you wear this bindi? 200 questions flooding from every direction, and they're pulling, each and everyone is pulling us, and everyone is asking questions to us. So for them, we foreigners were very strange. They have never seen foreigners in their life. So for them, that was the time I felt very, scared also, but I also felt, very uneasy, you know, uneasy about myself in this, atmosphere where everyone is just around you, gathering and trying to find out. But nobody was harming you. I mean, it was not that anybody is beating you or taking advantage of you. I mean, in India, probably you would have felt then men are, um, taking advantage of the situation, but that was not happening.
नहीं, वो इंडिया के क्यों दे रहे हो यार? वो पाकिस्तान के दे दो ना. वो बेचारी एक टिकटॉकर गई थी मीनारे पाकिस्तान में वीडियो लेने, और उस बेचारी के साथ वो जो जमात आ रही थी, वो नमाज पढ़ के, हाँ, कहाँ से आ रही थी, नमाज पढ़ के या जाने, और जो किया था, खैर छोड़ दो. वो इंडिया में नहीं होता ये सब. प्लीज हमारे हिंदुस्तान के पुरुषों के बारे में ऐसा ना बोले. मैं कतई बर्दाश्त नहीं करूंगा.
No, I'm saying that in India you would think that a woman will think that people might take advantage or something, but that was not the case. It was
Right,
never
right.
a thought that
It
people are
was
taking advantage.
it was curiosity. So
It was
I just
curiosity.
want to come. How did it resolve? Like, how did they come to know that, okay, what you
No,
are saying
so
is
me and
true?
my friend really got angry at some point of time, because we knew that our teachers have told that if you don't come to the bus will go, and we didn't
Ah,
know the route also. So we were like,
ah.
where are we? How are we going to go? And there are not, that time there were no taxis like that in China, so it could have been very difficult for us, and it was getting dark. So we had to literally, shout and fight and literally pull our way out and throw the people away. Just let us go, let us go. And they were like, no, no, please answer this, please answer that. And they were so very interested in knowing about us. And somehow we had to really pull them up and then rush. And the teachers thankfully were waiting, because they also knew that we will have a problem or something like that. And they were also like trying to find out. So China, at that point of time, had very little knowledge about the foreigners. They had their own cultural ways of living, which were completely at odds for us to, accept. Yet there were so many things which we explored over a period of time. So today, when you go to China, and the China that I had seen from those
Yeah, yeah.
years is completely different. And even at
Right.
that point of time, if you go to rural areas, which I went, like Yunnan or other places and everything, um, there was completely, uh, bad toilets. Toilet systems were really, really bad. Extreme poverty, extreme. And then hotels were not comfortable enough. If you have to stay in a hotel, hotels were very, very poor. That sort of hotels were there. Like literally, I would say 1 star or even worse than that. And at the same time, you had restrictions as foreigners, a lot of restrictions, in the sense that you cannot, stay in a place where Chinese are living. So I was not allowed to go in the Chinese, students' hostel as a foreigner. And if a Chinese have to meet me, they had to deposit their I card at the reception in the building, get all the details recorded. Only then they can come and meet me. So Chinese were not allowed to meet with the foreigners. And once the Chinese comes, then the whole checking of the Chinese will be done. Okay, why and who they went and met, for what reason. So that kind of fear was there. So so the Chinese would not interact with us. And fortunately or unfortunately, because for foreigners there were specific classes, foreigners specific language teaching, advanced Chinese. When I went there, I felt, my teachers also felt that, the coordinator also, he felt that, your Chinese level is very high, and what will you learn with this basic Chinese that is being taught to the foreigners. So they gave me this opportunity to, why don't you go and sit with the Chinese students who are doing graduation. So fortunately, I went with the, classes that they were teaching to the classical Chinese, the graduate students of their university. So I thought it was good that I'm learning with the Chinese, but it was not a very pleasant experience from the very beginning, for two, three reasons. One, of course, the level was too high. They were learning classical Chinese, the Confucius. They had these books in classical Chinese written, and they had to, learn all of that. I can't do that. My standard was not at that level. It's like a school kid who's really put in to sit with the university students. It was that gap. And second thing was that the Chinese would not interact with you. So you were sitting in one bench, and the other Chinese are a little away from you. And then third thing is, whatever the teacher was speaking in such a speed that I can't even take down notes. I can't even write out what the Chinese teacher is teaching. So I felt it very difficult to cope up. So then I went and told to my teacher that I can't understand anything, and what your speed is so fast in the class, and I can't gather anything. What do you think? So they were very nice. So they said, okay, so what you can do is, you can, you know read these texts, and you can make some friends. I'll help you, get some friends in the class, and take their notes to read. So I said, okay, that's a good, beginning. But once I met these, girls, they were not very open to talk to me. They were very hesitant. They were like, okay, this is my notes, you can read. But even their notes I can understand, because their Chinese writing is completely different for me to make any head and tail. So then they were like, okay, but that is all we can help. And because I can't go into their hostels, and they can't come to my hostels, so again, you can't interact so freely. It is only the class time that you can meet and talk. And then the people were even started laughing. Okay, why don't you make some, friends, and you come to the playground, and we'll help you make some more friends. So another interesting thing happened was, one guy, they called one Chinese guy and said, okay, she's from India, and she wants to make friends. Okay. He looked at me, India, and he ran like anything. I mean, it was like 30, 40 kilometers away from me, not because I was from India, but because I was a foreigner. So the fear of interacting with foreigners was like, no, we can't interact with the foreigners, and they would be in trouble. So it was like, I could
Ye-
literally see him
This is
running, you know.
so different. Actually, I wanted to stop you because I just wanted to give you some stats as of now. So like we got
Yeah.
because we didn't I never planned. It's around actually it's more than it's 133 people on Twitter. I think much less on YouTube. So we are live on YouTube as well. So if you want to see it on a bigger platform, bigger space, right? Please go on YouTube. मेरा थोड़ा YouTube channel भी promote कर दो. But yes, we're having. I'm surprised. 133 people on X are watching on this topic, which is non-geopolitical, जो mostly होता है. So there is an interest in what you're saying. तो मैं आपको बताना चाहता था. people are interested. हाँ गीता मैम आपने कहा था कि it will be an academic discussion, 10 लोग देखेंगे. ऐसी बात नहीं है. ऐसी बात नहीं है. People are interested. I think they want to hear about. I think because we are not talking more from usual stuff. We are talking about the
Yeah.
life of a girl who went to China when China was not what it is and her life struggle, which is
Yes.
not generally not being told. We either talk about the glory things or the bad things, but we don't talk
Yes.
from a viewpoint, especially from a girl, right? Mostly
Mm.
they're the men who are traveling in this. When you went, and that also sending a girl to China, I would understand if you father would have sent you to UK, US.
Mm.
I understand that. China, China तो वैसे भी already mystery था. वो बिच्छू सांप खाते हैं.
Mm.
This was at that point of time was our thought process. How will my
And
daughter survive?
and also that there were no Indians there. Very, very few. You can just count on numbers on your fingers that how many
Yeah, yeah,
Indians were
yeah.
there. At Liaoning, of course, there was not even one. I was the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But there were Nepalese. Okay. So Nepalese were studying in the medical colleges and they had come there. So they were there. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, you hardly could find even Beijing. The foreigners were there who had started to come at that point of time. So there were some few foreigners, but that is also in Beijing Language Institute, which was called as Yuan Shuiyuan. At that
Right,
point of
right.
time, it was called Yuan Shuiyuan, and only all the foreigners were in that university particularly, not in other places so much like Beijing University, Tsinghua University, the top universities. So they never had that culture. So they had specifically. So even Chinese had a way of keeping the foreigners into one specific area closed, right? So we had specific foreign students building. We had specific, place to study in Beijing also, like that. So it was not completely open. Even today, I don't find it so open. Of course, now in universities, you will find foreigners studying in many universities in China, right? But that time it was
Yeah,
not. So that kind of change and cultural shock was all there. But today's China is completely different in that sense. You get all sorts of food. The food itself in Beijing, I mean, it's spicy also. That time we used to literally strive for having anything chili. There was nothing called chili, and Punjabis at that time were eating a lot of chilies, and I was also eating very spicy food. But in China, there was hardly any spices. So spices were only in Sichuan and Chongqing. But now it is common. So you can go to Beijing and have spicy food. You have a lot of restaurants that are open. So n number of restaurants. So you can eat at
yeah.
any
मुझे
point of time.
मुझे मुझे एक चीज बताओ. क्या बात करी है? कुंग पाव चिकन क्या होता है? मतलब ड्राइड
मीठा होता है.
चिलीज का पूरा. नहीं नहीं, okay, then it depends from place to place, right?
Yeah, that
Here,
is what I'm saying.
here when I eat it, there are two different versions I've seen. There is a very famous restaurant, very elite restaurant called Spice Temple. That's one of their signature dish. So there'll be this dried chicken, right? And but it'll come like in this इतना बड़ा bowl में आएगा.
Hmm.
And the bowl is full of dried red chilies. So you have to
Yeah.
and it'll be like this big, full of
Hmm.
dried red chilies, and you have to take your chopsticks and go and take the chicken pieces out. While the other places I've seen, it's like a paste kind of a thing. But मीठा कहीं नहीं मैंने देखा. ये मीठा
So,
वाला तो नहीं.
so what I'm telling, this was there in Sichuan and Chongqing. But in Beijing, Liaoning, everything was like bland, completely bland. To the extreme that one day we thought, okay, we'll have ice cream. Can you imagine what kind of ice cream was there available at that point of time?
Vanilla
Which Chinese even eat? No,
today.
absolutely
No?
no, absolutely no.
But
There was no,
butterscotch तो होगी नहीं.
no, there were no nothing as milk items. No, so how can you create creams and you see? So the ice
वो
creams that were
लेमन चू,
available,
वो लेमन चू वाली जो वो सस्ती वाली 2 रुपए वाली जो ऑरेंज एंड ऑरेंज बार. हाँ,
uh,
that one.
but not with orange. They were made with pulses.
Different
So
colors.
दालों की ice
Pulses.
cream होती. Yeah.
Okay, that I've not had. दालों वाली तो
So
मैंने नहीं खाई है.
and I was like, मतलब they've frozen the, I don't know, the soft ones. They must have
Was
made
it
it
good?
in some form.
Was
Very
it good?
bad. No, because it was
Okay.
sugar was not there. It was not sweet. So it was not sweet, and there were no milk
मतलब
taste.
मतलब हिंदुस्तानियों को हेल्दी खाना कहीं मिले उन्हें हजम नहीं होएगा. है, आपने डायबिटीज करवानी है, हाई ब्लड प्रेशर कराना, कोलेस्ट्रॉल लेना है, हमें गंद ही खाना है? हम वो आपको कोई जापान का माचा पिला देना, आप नहीं पियोगे। क्यों? क्योंकि
Yeah.
हेल्दी है। स्पेशली दिल्ली वालों को तो हेल्दी फूड से नफरत होती है।
So, so when I say bland, it literally means bland in the sense not too sweet, not too spicy, absolutely no salty. So it was that, really boiled and all of that. But yeah, once we moved out, we traveled to Yunnan, and because we were yearning to have those spicy food, and the first thing we said was, okay, we want to have chida mifan. Chida mifan is basically egg rice and some spicy chicken. And the spicy chicken was so very spicy that we literally started to cry because they had got the
यस,
Sichuan one.
वो
And
बेल पेपर, दे पुट बेल पेपर इन
yeah,
इट, एंड वो नम कर देती है पूरा आपको इसको।
Sichuan pepper. That Sichuan
हाँ,
pepper
वो
is
बेल
very
पेपर
numbing.
देन ऑल दे वो नम कर देती है टू योर लिप्स एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स, वेरी
and
डेडली।
and it was and we went with one Korean guy who was fond of eating spicy food, and we both, me and my friend, were crying, and this guy was like literally eating a lot of spicy stuff. So I think that kind of a travel experience gave us understanding that on the north part it was quite bland and they were eating mostly rice, but on the and not just rice, um, like pings. Ping is something maida, like a naan sort of thing, but it's a different kind of a naan. But in the south, it was only rice. Okay, and and then I realized if you have to eat sweet, then you have to move towards the east coast. The Shanghai, Zhejiang, all of these areas. Then you will might find some sweet food and a lot of spicy ones. You have to go to Sichuan, Chongqing, that side, western part of it. Or if you, and so our favorite food was the Xinjiang food.
उसका
Xinjiang
उसका
was like
रीजन,
peppery.
उसका हिस्टोरिकल रीजन मालूम है क्या? जैसे जैसे वो ऊपर जाता है, एलिवेशन बढ़ता
Hmm.
जाता है, सो हॉटर फूड इज यूज टू कीप यू वार्म। जब
Hmm.
शुरू में when the food wasn't that great and all those things, जब these Everest guys used to go up na, they used to consume a huge amount of chilies to remain hot, because chilies will, कहते हैं ना, when you eat chilies you start sweating a lot and all those kind of things. So chilies are,
Um,
if you go higher up altitude, देखो they end up eating hot food a lot. There's a
but
scientific reason behind it.
yeah, maybe, but I don't know. In if you go to Heilongjiang and all, where it is minus 28-degree temperature, and I've been to that ice festival that they have in December.
अब
Uh,
उगता नहीं होगा
they
ना,
don't.
yeah,
Yeah,
because they can't grow it, huh? That's the other thing.
yeah,
If you can grow it, then they will
yeah,
preserve it and keep it. So you have to also see that they need to have the ability to grow it.
yes,
Otherwise, these Eskimos and all those things would be only consuming that. So you need to
yeah,
have that ability to grow it as well. But if you have the ability to grow it, you will see that cuisine is hotter in nature, because it
mm,
helps you warm up your body as well. This is
mm,
all. I was hearing it somewhere, and
mm,
that the cuisine also makes a difference on where
mm.
you are, and also if you have the ability to produce that one. Not 100% always, but it's an observation. देखो क्वेश्चन में Q&A में Q&A में people can ask questions in Q&A, and you can debunk my theory as well.
Yeah. So, and the other cultural shock was about drinking culture. So for Chinese, drinking culture, especially alcohol, beer, this that, was very common,
Common,
whether it is
yes.
men or women, right?
Betting and drinking.
For Yes, for Indian women to go at that point of time specifically, um, we were not, I was not taught to drink, you know. So I had no sense. I mean, being a Punjabi family, my father had given me some rum or something as a kid. You would,
बिल्कुल, I
as
totally
a medicine.
outrightly I totally outrightly don't believe you on a public platform. दिल्ली वाली लड़की को पीना नहीं आता था,
No, no,
ये
no, no, absolutely not.
absolutely don't I believe it. ठीक है,
So no, no, no,
जस्ट
and
फॉर द रिकॉर्ड, दिल्ली वाली लड़की बड़े बड़ों को पिछाड़ देती है पीने में, ठीक है.
No, but
I was
this is
like that.
not.
I was not born with it.
No, this is a very frank discussion, okay? And so for me, this was a cultural shock because for the Chinese, if you don't drink, right, it is like an insult to the to
Correct,
the
correct,
host,
correct,
right?
correct.
And they feel that that you are not respecting their
So,
offer.
I would
So
ask you about this drinking thing. So, uh, they have this Chinese rice wine as well, right?
yeah,
They drink a lot of that, and the other thing they drink a lot is something which is not local there. And correct me if is beer. Is beer,
mm,
which is not local to there. The Chinese wine they drink a lot, but beer is also one of their favored
yes.
drinks, which is technically
So
not a Chinese drink.
uh,
India में
so
भी का है. हाँ. Sorry,
so
go ahead, please.
so this was another one is this about the drinking culture that they had, and the cultural shock was that because they do not drink normal water, they only drink boiled water. And in India, Delhi, we have a culture of drinking normal water, right? So you don't get normal water. At that point of time, you had to only buy the Bisleris, right? The mineral water bottles. And for me to buy one mineral water bottle used to cost 3 yuan, and a Qingdao beer would cost 2 yuan. So it's like you buy beer better than buy a water. Of course, I was not making that choices. For me, water means
Because
water.
it was not catered towards you. It was catered for the sorry. It was not catered towards the local public. It was catered for the tourist only. Because the normal
Yes,
public would just boil the dirty water or even good water, whatever it is. I've seen,
it was hard
I've
water.
seen a
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and also a lot of times they put a little bit of lemon or they put a little bit of one of these teas they put, and they keep sipping it throughout the day,
yeah,
what I've observed.
yeah,
They keep
yeah,
sipping the water throughout the day. They don't drink
yeah,
it like us. And that's
yeah.
actually scientifically, they say it's actually good. Then you shock
Yes.
your system, keep hydrating yourself. So I've seen these old people here, because there are a lot of
Mm,
Chinese old people with
mm,
these thermo flasks, and they
mm.
will keep drinking. Or even if it is not thermo flasks, I've seen few of the old people with these, वो भी इंडियंस की तरह ना कुछ फेंकते नहीं है. द ओल्ड जार ना, लेबल निकाल के अंदर से you'll see a blooming टी का वो, and he or she will be drinking that, and
Mm.
they just keep drinking. They just don't gulp the whole thing of this. They do slow drinking, three
Yeah,
sips. By the end of the day, they'll have finished the whole thing. So that's what even I observed.
that's
What
the
you're telling me.
yeah. That is
Especially, I'm
how.
talking the older people, right? The first generation people who have come. The second generation, तो वो तो फिर they become same as the normal population. It's the
So
first generation who have, yeah.
I think not just the older people, there the common culture was this only boiled water. So you didn't have the normal water. So even if you have to cool down that water and then drink, it didn't taste like the water we used to drink, right? So it and there is no fridge and everything to really cold, make it cold. And because it was very cold there, you don't feel like drinking very cold water also. But there was no normal water, so you have to actually buy these bottles to drink water, or then gradually we developed this habit of, as you said, drinking tea. So we started drinking jasmine tea, and what they called as moli cha, or whatever, and you learn that you have to, if
You
you have
you
to
you
sustain in
also
China, you learn.
you also learn that हर चीज को 100 डिग्री पे बॉईल नहीं किया जाता. Like jasmine tea, the temperature has to be 80 degrees, otherwise it becomes really bitter, right?
Hmm.
If you take it
So
at 80, then it's perfect. And this is for
so
everybody, हाँ, जो ये जो दिल्ली में आजकल फैड चला है, we'll drink jasmine tea. This is especially for green tea. The
hmm.
temperature has to be 80 degrees, otherwise it will be very bitter. If it is at 80, then it's perfectly fine. So whichever fad you drink, also read the instructions below, behind. It will be written at what temperature. Ma'am, please continue.
yeah, and they don't drink the first boiled thing. The first boiled thing is thrown out. They start from the
They
second one.
throw it. Yeah,
Yeah,
if you sit in the tea ceremony, and there is a
yeah.
rationale behind it, is because that has got that pungent flavor. In the tea
Hmm.
ceremony, they will put the first thing in their small cups and they will throw it because it's pungent, and the other thing, it warms the cup. It warms
Yes,
the
yes,
ceramic cup,
yes.
right?
It's clean.
So
Yeah.
it cleans and it warms the cup as well. और उसके
Yeah.
पीछे एक और भी रीज़न है वो हिस्टोरिकली ये जब सेरेमोनियल टी होती थी इट वाज समथिंग व्हेन either some truce is being done or the war is ending and the waging parties are sitting, so
Mm.
they put
Mm.
it to basically clean अगर तुमने कोई poison का spray किया. So there's a historical reason also behind it. So there are multiple like in like you see the concept of chairs, right? You do chairs,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Historically, Vikings and all those things, what they used to have this wooden mugs, right?
Mm.
वो इनकी एल होती थी बियर तो बाद में बनी ना एल यूज टू बी द hot fermented this
Mm.
lager and all are cold fermented so it used to be ales. So when they used to say it, so the deal was that you take your mug and the other guy takes
Mm.
his mug. They basically clung together. So
Yes.
the bears of each other basically swap to a certain
Both.
extent.
Yes.
हम
Yes.
तो मरे सनम तुम भी मरे. If you poisoned
Ah.
mine, then you
Yeah.
also die. So,
Absolutely. 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 You are absolutely right. But for the Chinese, this whole culture of drinking tea is also a mark of respect. So you have to accept that, yes,
oh yes,
that
the
you're drinking.
ceremonial tea, the
Yeah.
ceremonial
Yeah.
one is a very elaborate function. उसमें scam भी होते हैं. And I asked
Hmm.
you the other day आप वो scam में फंसे थे कि नहीं? And it's considered to be, especially for the woman, it's considered to be
Hmm.
like वो कहते हैं ना जैसे इंडिया में वो आ जाती है चाय लेके. This is
Hmm.
supposed to be like one of the things, like a mark of a woman, like she's doing the
Hmm.
ceremonial tea ceremony. It's generally done by women only, generally,
Hmm.
not always. And it's the grace at which she will serve and
Hmm.
all those kind.
Hmm.
So if you see these Chinese old movies and all those things, even Japanese and Chinese,
Absolutely.
the subtle art and the grace and the way the
Hmm.
woman will behave, that is
Yeah.
considered कि भाई what kind of a house you are coming from, and वो
Hmm.
honor system बहुत होता है उनमें, right? And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so it is all it's being lost nowadays, but that is what the culture, that's what I read. Again, you are the expert on
Hmm.
this one, but correct me wherever I am wrong. So the Chinese ceremony was one of those. वो
Hmm.
सूटर्स के लिए भी काफी टाइम भी यूज किया जाता था, the Chinese tea ceremony and all those kind of things.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But coming to the point of this one, so when you came at that point of time, so what I can gather is very few Indians there, not
Hmm.
catering to the Indian palate and all those kind of things. You being as an object of इंट्रीग फॉर द लोकल पॉपुलेशन, क्योंकि उन्होंने इंडियंस नहीं देखे थे अब.
Hmm.
इतना इतना फॉरेन मीडिया इन्फ्लुएंस भी नहीं था जो अब हो चुका है एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. इंटरनेट तो होता नहीं था उस टाइम, राइट? इंटरनेट होता भी होगा तो आपको चलेगा नहीं, उनका वर्ल्ड इंटरनेट था एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स. So you said that, and you also told me that the interaction between the locals, they were basically afraid of interacting with foreigners. Very different
Hmm.
from Indians, huh?
Yeah.
Indians तो are very intrigued interacting with, अगर उनको चाइनीज भी मिल गया, गोरे भी मिल गए. गोरों के पीछे तो खैर ज़्यादा ही भागते हैं,
Hmm.
लड़का हो या लड़की हो, इनको लगता है कि दे कम फ्रॉम मार्स. But very different. In China they were not. And now I'll just jump to now. If you compare that time and compare now, I won't come in between right now. How much has it changed in terms of interacting with foreigners, both at the level of a store guy to the level at universities? How has it changed now? And
Yes. So.
mindset wise as well, also in communication wise. See, you had the advantage, you knew Chinese, you knew
Hmm.
Mandarin, right? But for a person who doesn't know Mandarin, right? If a girl is coming, if you we transport you back from time to now, right, and you
Hmm.
land now, what will you encounter as a young girl coming there with first time? What would be the difference you would see from your experience?
So as I said, I mean, they didn't know foreigners, but yeah, they knew Raj Kapoor's song. Some of them, okay, some of them knew.
कि वहां पर भी
So
पहुंच गया था, आवारा हुआ, हाँ?
yeah, so
Was it
so
because of the Russian influence? Was
yes,
it because?
absolutely.
Okay.
A lot of Russians were there, and so for them, one very false notion, because Chinese also don't understand Indians as Indians don't understand Chinese. One false notion at that point of time, and I think it still carries certain resonance, not too much, but yes, that all the Indians only speak and dance. So when I'm talking to you, I would be singing and dancing. You know, so that was the wrong notion that they had. So they asked me directly also, and I'm talking about the university students asking me and university teachers asking, how do you communicate with each other in India? You know, are you always singing? I said, no, but we saw your movies, you know, like we heard that Avara song, Raj Kapoor, they're always singing and they're always like you dancing. So you can dance? I said, yes, I can dance, but not like the Bollywood or something, because I had some training, basic training. So I know a little bit of dancing, but I mean, we're not constantly dancing in India. There's no that dance culture. But today, if you go in China, still they are very, not everyone understands India, but the songs are different, which are more popular today. Like Jimmy Jimmy is very popular, you know, Jimmy Jimmy Aja Aja.
एक तो ये जिमी जिमी ये okay, do you know I'll tell you a story behind it. So there was a movie being made, Lucky No Time for Love, right? It
Yes.
was a movie of Salman Khan, right? जिसमें वो ऐश्वर्या राय का डुप्लीकेट लड़की लेके आया था. I think he only worked for 2 movies and जिसमें वो गाना था सुन जरा and all those things. Adnan Sami had first time became a music director in that. Beautiful songs, right? उसमें इसका जो सलमान खान का वन ऑफ द मेंटर जो होता है आर्मी वगैरह में जो भी होता है वो इज आर जिमी जिमी मिठुन चक्रवर्ती है. तो उसकी स्टोरी सलमान खान सुना रहा था. कहता कि मिठुन दा वाज देयर और मिठुन दा अपने रूम में बैठे हुए थे. उसमें नीचे लाइन लगी हुई है रशियन लड़कियों की, एक जा रही है दूसरी आ रही है, एक जा रही है दूसरी आ रही है. मैं कह रहा हूँ साला फिल्म का स्टार मैं हूँ, मेरे को कोई पूछ नहीं रहा. सब लोग मिठुन दा को पूछ रहे. तो मैं कहता मैंने जाके पूछ लिया. यू पहले कहता मैं ऊपर से देखा, मुझे लगा वो मेरे से मिलने आई है. मैं नीचे उतर गया, कह रहा मुझे कोई देख ही नहीं रहा. तो मैंने लड़कियों से पूछ लिया कि भाई हूँ मैं भी कब जिमी 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 जिमी. भाई साहब वो कह रहा ये तो भाई मुझे पता ही नहीं था ये इतने बड़े सुपरस्टार है. ये रशिया. एंड नाउ यू आर सेइंग जिमी जिमी. आई डोंट नो मैन, ही वाज अ वेरी बिग सुपरस्टार इन ऑल दीस कंट्रीज. तो मतलब अभी भी है, ही स्टिल इज. मिठुन चक्रवर्ती इज वेरी वेरी बिग.
Yeah.
The second thing nowadays which I saw was recently I found this. There was this Ghana of यशराज फिल्म का, अगेन जिसमें शाहरुख खान था. ही इज अ म्यूजिक टीचर. मोहब्बतें, हाँ. And there is a Ghana of that आंखें खुली हो या हो बंद, जिसमें all those girls and guys dance. I've seen a full recreation of that by Chinese young guys and girls in the same get-up and everything, tuxedo and everything, matching toe to toe, exactly the same thing. They're so obsessed with these songs. So there are a lot of songs which they recreate, and also there were 2 movies which became very popular in I think the modern Jimmy Jimmy is Amir Khan, because his Dangal became very popular.
Yes.
It earned and the second thing was the Secret Superstar of that same girl, of the Dangal girl, the young Dangal girl. उसमें भी that was an Amir Khan. He made उसकी कुछ 900 करोड़ से, जिसमें से I think 600 करोड़ सिर्फ चाइना से ही आए थे. Because Dangal and my superstar was like 15-20 crores movie. It made some like 50 times this money because of China में popular हो गया. Again because both the movies, if you see, they are not a typical romance movie. This is about a father struggling to make his kids go. वो struggle वाला movie ना, they can correlate. I mean, I asked a lot of people. I was surprised to know, थोड़ा तो मैं divert कर रहा हूँ. I was surprised to know in the Twitter spaces, कभी-कभी we go to different rooms and I went to few African rooms. When they came to know that I'm from India, right? They started singing ये 2000s के songs, यशराज के and all those Karan Johar के songs and all those, and they're singing proper songs. They're African guys and girls. So I was like, how do you know these songs? And you're singing properly. You don't know Hindi language, but they said, yeah, when we were growing up, we used to get a lot of Bollywood cinema through your through the cable, satellite cable. I said, but why were you watching it? Why weren't you watching something else? They said, no, because the culture. is
mm,
very similar to our culture. You got a family oriented system and all those things.
mm,
We also do dance in this. You wear vibrant clothes, we also wear. And that's when I realized that we have underestimated the power of Bollywood. There is a whole section apart from the whites where
mm.
the family values, the culture, and all those
Absolutely.
things are very similar and they
Yes.
can correlate. They can correlate. हमें लगता है बट हमारा बॉलीवुड का काफ़ी इम्पैक्ट है चाइना बीइंग वन अफ्रीका बीइंग वन गल्फ में तो खैर देखते ही है लोग
Mm.
बिकॉज अगेन नहीं प्लीज कंटिन्यू थोड़ा कभी कभी सेगवे कर लेते हो भाई इधर उधर बट जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ इट बट नहीं कमिंग टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट अगर आप सो नाउ इफ यू गो राइट कमिंग टू
Yeah.
नाउ अब
So yeah,
तो
I
व्हाट्स द
was
डिफरेंस
about to come to that. So now if I go, I mean, one, I would not feel odd among the, people out there because there are so many foreigners there, right? And people are not inquisitive about foreigners. I mean, the sense that I said at that point of time was a foreigner is a strange person among them. Okay, but today they don't see that, you know. And at that point of time, they felt a little more lower in their, strata when they looked at foreigners. They felt foreigners are very rich and very, sophisticated people. They are much more, uh, they are at hierarchy above them. Okay, but today that has reversed. Now Chinese feel they are a hierarchy above the foreigners, and they are superior people, and they have this sense of, uh, not being so very inquisitive about who you are. They are more happy telling about their culture to you, expressing about their things. Like earlier, they were very hesitant to expose their things, right? They didn't want to share their culture. They didn't want to tell you about how they live. They never wanted you to get into their houses to show what their house is like. They didn't want, and they felt very inferior in all of these things. They were not very comfortable in letting you inside their life, you see. Today it is like, yes, they don't want to let you inside in their life, but because they feel that you are not worth that level, you are a lower level. So it's that kind of a reversal. And they would not try to, pull your dresses or anything, because they have adapted new cultures, new ways of living. um, Earlier they had one static dresses to wear and very limited food to eat, but now it's like abundance of it, so many restaurants. So now they want to float out and tell you that these are the, once earlier when you go, they would only take you to the mess, like university mess or their organization mess to eat. Now they might take you to a very grand restaurant, right, to show that they have this variety of food, this kind of culture. So they try to praise their culture a lot now, tell you that their culture is very unique and very uh, exceptionally good. And when I went, so the kind of utensils that I got from, the from the store in the university, was something which in India I would have felt that I'm living in a jail. वो जो मग्गे मिलते हैं बड़े बड़े, और ऐसे बड़े से वो, लोहे के वो, अ,
वो 20 साल पहले की बात है वो अब वो सोफिस्टिकेटेड
हाँ,
हो गए वो पहले
तो वही ना.
बिकॉज व्हेन द कम्युनिस्ट regime was there everything was
It
more
was
about function than aesthetics
abs-
अगर आप देखो ना
absolutely.
कम्युनिस्ट regime में majority of the buildings which were made in a box structure because
Hmm,
that was
hmm,
functional
hmm,
aesthetics were given as a secondary option right
hmm,
वो अगर आप रशिया का भी देख लो पीटर्सबर्ग वगैरह को छोड़ के बाकी जो उन्होंने पीछे बनाए थे वो पीटर्सबर्ग वगैरह को साफ रखते थे
hmm,
और वो क्रेमलिन स्क्वायर को रखते थे बिकॉज वो
hmm,
उनको दिखाना होता था बाकी जितना भी आप देखो देवर ऑल बॉक्सेस बिकॉज वाई इट्स
hmm,
फंक्शनल हमारे को
hmm,
क्या करना है हमारे को काम से मतलब है हमारे को दुनिया को थोड़ा
hmm,
दिखाना है और दुनिया को दिखाने के लिए वो बड़े बड़े अपने वो पार्क्स और ये सब बनाते थे राइट buildings they were always functional kind of a thing this is what it is this is what you want to do मेरा क्वेश्चन उसी में ही है this is what I want to ask you about is the mindset of the people
hmm,
When you went there for the first time, right? And this is, I'll tell you where I'm coming from, right? Because I've interacted with both generations. यहाँ पर मेरे को, I have the advantage of um, Australia being one of their prime destinations to come, right? There's
Mm.
huge influx of this. और वो मिड 90s में एक बड़ी फेमस स्टेटमेंट हुई थी बाई a politician called Pauline Henson, and she started ranting on. She's from Queensland, and she started ranting on the Senate, saying that Australia is getting अपने nasal voice में Australia is getting hammered by we are getting an invasion of Chinese and we'll be a Chinese country and all that. तो बड़ा फेमस हुआ था उसका वो रैंट. वो अभी भी उस रैंट के चक्कर में चल रही है. अब उसने वो शी इज नाउ गॉन टू द मुस्लिम्स ऑन दैट वन कि भाई हमारा शी इज़ लाइक एंटी इमिग्रेशन टू लार्ज एक्सटेंट. तो वो टारगेट करती है. तो उसके दैट्स व्हेन रिसेंट ऑस्ट्रेलिया में एक और चीज़ हुआ था कि व्हेन द वियतनाम वॉर हैपेंड लॉट ऑफ वियतनामीज केम. सो वी हैव अ कल्चरल मिक्स ऑफ लॉट ऑफ कल्चर्स. तो मेरे को एडवांटेज है. आई हैव द एक्सेस ऑफ वर्ल्ड कुजीन बाय नॉट पेइंग माय आर्म एंड लेग. तो
Mm.
आपकी डिफरेंट जो एशियन कुजीन है ना, आई कैन टेस्ट एंड सी द डिफरेंस. नाउ व्हेन आई गो बैक टू इंडिया,
Mm.
आई डोंट लाइक दैट चाइनीज जो वो देते हैं. यहाँ पर टू केटर टू इंडियंस ना, यहाँ पर रेस्टोरेंट्स खुले विच इज कॉल्ड इंडो चाइनीज. वो अपना ना वही गोभी मंचूरियन आपको देंगे विच डज नॉट एग्जिस्ट इन
You
चाइनीज,
never
राइट?
get it in China.
क्या वो आपको गोभी मंचूरियन, चिकन मंचूरियन, आपको आपको मैगी नूडल्स देंगे फुल अजीनो मोटो डाल के, एमएसजी डाल के वो तो वो आपको देंगे. उनको काफ़ी देसी जाते हैं बिकॉज दे आर मिसिंग दैट स्टफ, राइट? दे आर मिसिंग.
Yeah,
उनके लिए
yeah,
तो चाइनीज वही है. बट नाउ आई गॉट आउट ऑफ
absolutely.
इट, आई वोंट बी एबल टू ईट इट, राइट? एंड इवन व्हेन यू वुड हैव कम बैक, नो यू से यार ये क्या है, ये चाइनीज के नाम पे धोखा देते हैं हमारे को एंड ऑल दोस थिंग्स. वो देयर मेन थिंग इज एग नूडल्स हो गया, फिर उनके वो राइस
Mm.
नूडल्स होते हैं, फिर ये होते हैं. तो वो सब नहीं, इंडिया में तो वैरायटी नहीं है. बट दैट्स ओके. अब हमने हमने हम ना, हम हर चीज़ का सत्यानाश करने में एक्सपर्ट है. अब मैंने सुना है इंडिया में सुशी आई है. अब ये तंदूरी सुशी भी बनाने लग जाएंगे कुछ दिनों में. हमारे दिल्ली वाले जो भी आता है उसका सत्यानाश करने में उसका माहिर है. अब सुशी का वो क्या करेंगे, फ्राइड सुशी भी बना के आपको एक आध दिन में खिलाने लग जाएंगे वहाँ पर
It's
तो
already
दिल्ली
there.
में.
It's already
Oh
there.
shit. Oh shit. Fried sushi. I thought of it and somebody has done it. हमारे लोग दिल्ली वाले किसी भी कुजीन का फादर मदर, अब ठीक है ये पब्लिक प्लेटफॉर्म में बोलूंगा नहीं, वो समझ जाओ, करने में एक्सपर्ट है. कई बार वो अच्छा भी बन जाता है पर कई बार उसका जो सत्यानाश करते हैं वो छोड़ो उस बात को. No. So when you went initially, when you interacted with the locals, मैं माइंडसेट की बात पूछना चाहता हूँ. इट
Mm.
वाज कि उस टाइम जो जो लोग थे उनका माइंडसेट इन टर्म्स ऑफ फ्यूचर्स, ये दिस क्वेश्चन माइट हैव नॉट बीन आस्क्ड बाय अदर्स, राइट? आई एम आस्किंग इज व्हाट वर, बट लाइक कहते हैं ना स्पेंडिंग हैबिट्स कैसे थे, कि वर दे मोर ऑन सेविंग एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स वर्सेस नाउ, राइट? वर्सेस नाउ जो करंट जनरेशन है. I'm talking especially the generation जो ना कम्युनिस्ट एरा से आई, which saw lot of hardships, right? What was the situation then versus now, or is it still the same?
So that time they had very limited income. The salaries
Mm-hmm.
were very low, and
Mm-hmm.
they had to eat within their own mess. Every organization had a mess, and everyone was like a community catered, places. So suppose you are working in a media house, People's Daily. So they have their own compound. So everyone lives within that compound. They have their mess and they eat there. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
similarly other compounds. But and so everyone wants to save their money. They didn't want to spend. But today, because Chinese are quite rich, and especially the youngsters are quite rich, there is a fad of spending. They spend a lot. They want to show off their money. They want to wear brands. Okay, so brands is now a new thing for them, and they would just show off whatever style they take in the best iPhone, if iPhone has come, even if it is very costly, they would want to show it off. So that culture is still there in China, but
मतलब आप
but
कह
not
रहे
earlier.
हो कि वो पहले पहले वो मुंबई वाले थे, अब वो दिल्ली वाले बन गए.
I don't know about the Mumbai walas, but I know about the Delhi walas.
राइट इन द
So,
कमेंट्स, हाँ, कमेंट में लिखो मैंने जो बोला था.
uh,
I agree with you on that, right? And once what happened around 8 9 years back, na, this is an era where जब ये वाइबर एंड ये सब ना, ये व्हाट्सएप वगैरह ना, ये व्हाट्सएप आ गया था, वाइबर आया था जिसमें वॉइस कॉल होती थी. तो लाइक,
mm,
एंड माय फ्रेंड सेड, I had a friend who was a New Zealander, but his brother was living in in mainland China, right? They had formed a company. I think still there, the Young Pioneers,
mm,
and उसका तो statement लिखा था, we take you to all the places where your mother would not allow you. और उनका क्या
mm.
काम था, वो आपको, उनका मेन बिजनेस था आपको नॉर्थ कोरिया ले जाना. So there was this
Oh,
bunch of guys who had done it, right? So he had gone to North Korea and China also. वो तिब्बत वगैरह भी होके आया था,
mm,
ठीक है. और उसको वहाँ पर उनकी पूरी चेकिंग वेकिंग की थी कि क्या फोटोएं खींचे. और उनके बाद होते होते ना, ये वीगर नहीं, ये हैन चाइनीज और जो लोकल तिब्बतियन में लड़ाई भी हो गई थी. ठीक है. तो उन सब जगह लेके जाते थे जहाँ पर ना यू वुड नॉर्मली नॉट गो. ये उनका नाम था, द यंग पायनियर. आई थिंक इट्स स्टिल इन एग्जिस्टेंस. तो वो ये बताता था मेरे को चीज़ें on the mindset difference, right? And he said that when you speak to the older Chinese versus the newer
mm,
Chinese, now the older Chinese, they still have the mindset कि भाई state is not going to do anything for us. जो कुछ है हमारे को सेव करना है. तो they have the saving mentality. क्या जो
mm,
यंग जनरेशन है ना, स्पेशली दोज हु वर बोर्न इन द 80s, जब ये 79 के बाद जो वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी हो गई, which had the, where we will
mm,
call the princess or the prince syndrome, because there is one child and four grandmother on both the sides. तो उसके बाद वो पैम्परिंग एंड एवरीथिंग. सो बिकॉज देयर इज ओनली वन, राइट? दोनों की तरफ
mm,
से एक
mm.
एक ही है, तो एक ही बच्चा
Yeah.
उसका आया रिजल्ट. तो दोनों वो
Mm,
प्रिंसेस एंड they got too pampered, right?
mm,
And पैसा भी आने लग गया था, right? 79
mm.
वगैरह में उसको पैसा भी आने लग गया था. So they have not seen that hardship what their
Mm.
parents have seen.
Absolutely.
And and they actually have not seen the communist era, because by that time
Mm,
they were growing up, the communist era had changed. They basically saw the capitalist era. So
mm,
कहता है there is a huge thought process difference between when you, if you are doing interacting with शॉप पे कौन बैठा हुआ ना, इट वुड
mm,
वेरी मच मेक अ डिफरेंस ऑफ whom you are interacting with. अगर उसका बाप बैठा हुआ है, उसका थॉट प्रोसेस बिल्कुल भी अलग होगा वर्सेस जो उसका बेटा बैठा होगा, ठीक है, या बेटी
mm,
बैठी होगी. वो तो कहता है वो
mm.
बेटा बेटी में कोई फर्क नहीं देखते. एंड दिस, मेरा इसमें ना एक सेगवे क्वेश्चन है. देयर आर लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चन, बट आई विल जस्ट आस्क यू सेगवे क्वेश्चन. The one child policy which happened in 1979, if I'm not wrong, right? वो उन्होंने कुछ 3 4 साल पहले बंद करी, because, और वो, this is the wrong notion which have, and you can correct me, one child policy was more or less applied in the main cities. गाँव में नहीं करते थे वो. गाँव में people still had multiple kids. And again, this was a very racist policy. It was applied only to Han Chinese. जो माइनॉरिटीज थे उन पे नहीं एप्लीकेबल थी ये.
Mm,
सो अगर आप वीगर हो गए, अगर आप मतलब कोई और हो गए, वो जो इनके वो कौन से थे जिनके ऑर्गन्स लेके चले जाते थे, वो फानगाओ या क्या वो फॉलोअर्स थे, वो जिनके वो ऑर्गन
Lee
फार्मिंग का
Hong
भी
Chun.
केस हुआ. हाँ
Yeah.
हाँ हाँ, तो वो
Fang
उन
Kong.
पे नहीं अप्लाइड. फानगाओ
Fal
ना, हाँ उन पे.
Falun
हाँ
Gong. Mm,
हाँ, फॉलन गाँव, हाँ उन पे नहीं एप्लीकेबल था. दे कुड हैव मोर किड्स. तो मोर और लेस एप्लीकेबल ऑन हान चाइनीज ओनली. उन्होंने जैसे जैसे हमारी ग्रेट जो लीडरशिप इन इंडिया होती है, वो सारा जो गाज गिराती है हिंदुओं पे ही गिराती है, वैसे उन्होंने भी अपने हान चाइनीज पे ही गिराया था. तो so because of, so what has happened, can you tell me from your perspective, ये जो वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी है, इससे पूरा लैंडस्केप कैसे चेंज हुआ है, बिकॉज यू हैव बीन देयर फॉर अ लॉन्ग टाइम, राइट? जब आप पहली बारी गए होगे, वो वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी वाले तो छोटे छोटे होंगे, अब तो वो बड़े हो गए और वो खुद अपने पैदा कर रहे हैं, और वो भी डबल नहीं कर रहे, इन्होंने हटा दिया, पर वो भी एक सिंगल ही पैदा कर रहे हैं.
Yeah.
तो व्हाट इज दिस, इस पे अगर आप कुछ नजर डाल सके, बट और वी कैन डू अनदर सेशन ऑल टुगेदर मच लॉन्गर ऑफ दिस वन, बट आई एम वेरी क्यूरियस ऑफ दिस वन.
So, one child policy was like a deviation from the earlier notion where Mao, the Mao Zedong, the earlier paramount leader, was constantly saying that you produce more, because the more kids you have, the more hands you have, and the more you can work, right? Whether it is on farmland or on industries, and you know that industrial revolutions and everything, but like the Great Leap Forward in 57 and everything was pushed, so they needed more labor, and men and women were treated equally in China, and still today there is no difference between man and woman out there. uh, so suddenly they were told to have less kids, so suddenly there was this grandparents who were very unhappy with this whole notion that they can't have more kids. But I think, at that point of time, Chinese were living in a different sense of fear. Okay. The fear where whatever the state says, they have to abide by it. Okay. So they didn't have choices. They didn't have, even in the
Who
offices.
was the leader? Who was the leader at that point of time? Because बहुत ज़्यादा तो निपट गए
Deng
थे. If I'm
Xiaoping was the main leader.
so, Deng
I mean, the
Xiaoping
paramount leader.
actually, Deng Xiaoping decided this.
Yes, he was the main leader. I mean, not that he decided, but of course, he was the main leader who decided, yeah, to implement it. And I'm not talking about the president, I'm just taking the general secretary of the party, you know. So he's the one who started the reform and opening up, right, to
हाँ,
79.
he started the Nixon के साथ यही तो बैठा हुआ था
Yeah,
Nixon के साथ,
yeah.
right? Okay, I didn't realize it was Deng Xiaoping.
Yes,
Okay.
it was Deng Xiaoping. So he
Okay,
started, and
I will
why they,
consider. I will consider this. I have high regards of Deng Xiaoping, right? जो उसने किया, okay, he has both. I'll come to that. I want you to talk about Deng Xiaoping. Actually, what we'll do is we can't cover everything here. In
yeah,
one of the other ones, we will cover each of the leader इंडिविजुअली. जैसे माओ ज़ेडान की एक बहुत फेमस एक कहावत आती है कि भाई उसने स्पैरोज मरवा दी और उसकी वजह से फैमिन हो गया. ये मैंने भी सुना है,
actually, this was another
राइट?
culture shock for me. Yeah.
हाँ, बट देयर इज अ रैशनल वाई उसने ये बोला था, वो भी एक मेरे को किसी ने बताया. सो विल अंडरस्टैंड. माओ ज़ेडान कहता था कि भाई यू हैव टू बी वेरी पायस टू योर हस्बैंड एंड दिस, और उसने एक तरीके से सूडो हरम खोल रखा था अपने में, राइट? वो बुढ़ा, लाइक आई वोंट से, लाइक एट हिज एज ही हैड लाइक 15 17 18 years old girls dancing in front of him. I won't go into more details. I'm being very careful about that. But there was this aspect of it, and I'm not saying it. They are publications done through it, and the ladies have come out and said that it was said that he's our supreme leader, right? It's like you're pleasing God and like next to God and all those kind of things. So there were darker aspects of the Mao Zedong as well. I want to talk about Mao Zedong when he moved away from Russia, because and Russia and China had a difference, because then it becomes Mao communism versus the Russian or I will say what do they call it, the Lenin communism, right? What was that breaking point, right? Why did that happen? And because there was a Cold War era which was happening in between both of them, though they officially were still partners in crime or whatever, but there was a Cold War era. Again, I am saying this, you can tell me if I'm wrong anywhere of this one. This is what I have gathered over the period. And each of their main leaders had some kind of an impact, right? It can be death of Mao Zedong के हमेशा बोला जाता है कि भाई वो रेड बुक लीडर था, बट उसका ये भी बोला जाता है कि ही ऑल्सो, जैसे आपने वो बोला था ना, द ग्रेट लीप फॉरवर्ड, और उसके साथ द पर्च भी आया था साथ में. माओ ज़ेडुंग ने एक बहुत बड़ा पर्च भी किया था. वो लोग कोई डिस्कस नहीं करते द ग्रेट पर्च. एक तरफ से वो क्या था, वो स्टालिन पर्च कर रहा था, दूसरी तरफ से ये कर रहा था पर्च, राइट? और उसके बाद उसने एक और चीज भी करी थी, वो जो ग्रेट फैमिन हाइड कैसे किया था उसने, उसके बारे में भी कभी कोई पब्लिकली डिस्कस नहीं करता. So these are the things I want to discuss. Systematically, each of these leaders, what they did right. ऐसा नहीं है कि हम leaders because we are sitting overseas. What they did right and what they were drastically wrong in, and they should come to know. People should know about these things because China में तो बताते नहीं है. China में तो you can't even search for the Tiananmen Square incident, right? The current generation doesn't even know. Don't even know about that photograph of the kid standing in front of the tank, right? जो BBC ने ली थी. Funnily, do you know who there was a Congress lady who was there with her husband. Can you of US? Do you know what that Congress lady's name was? Make a wild guess. Let's see if you can guess it. At that point
I
of
don't
time,
know.
Nancy Pelosi.
I was guessing कि maybe Nancy Pelosi was there because
थी
she's the one who was like, yeah.
she was quite young that time. ये हर जगह पहुंच जाती है. You can check she and her phone. She was decently looking at that point of time. Nancy Pelosi was there at that point of time. नहीं मैं इसको I'm being very cautious because already 1 hour and 40 minutes on this one. And वो आप मुझे बता देना when we want to end because I do long form videos. I can do like 5 hours of video. I'm being very careful.
No,
We
no,
can
no.
segment it. We can segment it because there is so much of juice to take out of this one. अभी तो हमने we have not even scratched the surface.
Yeah.
आपने बोला था we should discuss. अभी तो हमने शुरू भी नहीं किया and so much of this. Just for you this. You said ना ये बहुत boring है 10 academic लोग होंगे. मैं YouTube का नहीं बोला था hardly any people on YouTube. It's already 192 people who are listening to this. So in totality अभी तक आ जा रहे हैं.
Maybe the time also Saturday night, people would be free, so that also matters.
नहीं ये भी तो हो सकता है. गीता मैम आप काफी पॉपुलर है. आप कुछ
Oh,
भी
really?
देखो we did not publish it. We just went directly live.
Yeah.
Right? तो ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने पब्लिश किया ये किया वो किया. हाँ maybe people are word of mouth भी होता है. So it's good. That means people do want to hear about these kind of things, which is a good thing. तो इसको segmented कर देंगे जैसे लोगों ने पहले warn कर दिया था. And you tell me where we end it, and then you tell me we'll end it here, and then we will. But before we end it, we if you can think some things which we can segment for future, because I think we should do more of these. We'll go segment by segment by segment because इतना बड़ा है. We'll go for months going on this one. Well, ठीक है. If people like it, then why not? We will continue on.
So one thing which people keep asking me is about, and as I said, it's extreme. Do we get vegetarian food out there or not? Today, yes, you do get purely vegetarian food. The concepts earlier were very bad. That you tell them vegetarian, they might have a piece of beef on it, or they may put fish, or they may put eggs. They didn't have that concept.
नहीं
But
वो
today,
देखो
yeah,
वो ना मैं आपको 2011 की बात करता हूँ. I knew somebody, and that person was vegetarian, right? No egg also one. And she was a lady, and she told me her experience, and she went to Beijing, right? वो गए थे. She went for like 2 weeks. उनको कोई they were migrating some work there, so she went to do that. And when she came back, I asked her. I said, "Yeah, how did you survive? But you are vegetarian. How did you survive?" She said, "See, I always knew that there will be a problem. So one of the first things I do, she went. Obviously, because company had taken, she was staying in a good 5-star hotel. So she basically called the chef. उनको बोला, I want to speak to the chef. He said, these are my dietary requirements, and by vegetarian I mean I do not need egg, I do not need fish sauce, I do not need oil. वो थोड़ी वो मतलब she was like oyster sauce, no shrimp sauce, anything to do with living this doesn't mean underwater or this, क्योंकि कई बार ना उनके लिए underwater they consider that's vegetarian ना, वो fish को कहते yeah but fish is fine, right? So okay, so the guy used, well, there are a lot of vegetables in Chinese bok choy and all those. So he used to specially make it. उसको ना अपना mission बना दिया. She said कि किसी ने मुझे, that guy was so happy कि हाँ, it is now a task for me how to make. कहते वो मेरे लिए स्पेशली हर रोज एक नई डिश बनाता था एंड माइन वाज फार मोर टेस्टी देन द बुफे जो बाकियों का था। उसको मुझे मेरे को देखते रहती थी, बाकी उसके साथ एक और लड़की गई थी, यार ये तेरे को हर रोज नई नई चीजें आती है, तेरा साला मेरे से ज्यादा टेस्टी है, क्योंकि बिकॉज दे आर नॉट यूज्ड टू दैट. Then the second thing she did was she said that I had to take my the जितने भी ये लोग थे ना, तो आई टुक देम आउट फॉर वो कहते हैं ना कि फाइनल थैंक यू एंड डिनर ऑन दोस कि दे हैड ऑलरेडी स्पोकन टू द स्टाफ कि भाई मेरे को अगर प्योर वेजिटेरियन चाहिए तो क्या. तो वन ऑफ द स्टाफ सेड कि अगर आपको प्योर वेजिटेरियन चाहिए ना, यू गो नियर दिस, ये कौन सा होता है ये इनका वो जो बीजिंग में वो जो फेक वो है वो शाओलिन टेम्पल, वो फेक ही है, मतलब वो बाद में ही बनाया. विल कम टू दैट शाओलिन टेम्पल ऑल्सो इन वन डे. हाउ it's not an historical thing, वो तो जल चुका था and they made it because they realized that a lot of people are coming to visit it. So ये जो बनाते उल्लू सबको, they said कि near the Shaolin temple there are few restaurants which cater to the monks.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
that's when she actually took me to the restaurant here where they make mock meat. भाई साहब मेरे दिमाग का दही हो गया. मैं भी बेशरम इंसान, I don't follow these things. But once, twice in a year, my mother says, "Yaar, Navratra aa rahe, please don't eat meat." So those 9 days, I don't eat meat. I don't consume any alcohol. I consider it detoxification. So I told I said, "Yaar, these Navratras have come. Can you take me to the restaurant you were talking about?" So what she did was she figured out this monk ones. So she said, I was so amazed that you'll have fish. It will look like fish. It will even have scales. You cut it. I said, what do you mean by that? She said, no. It will cut like that, but it will taste also like fish. But it's not fish. I said, well, what the hell is it? She said, it's yam. Yam से बनता है. Yam जिसको हम अरबी कहते हैं. उसका कुछ इन्होंने किया है, मतलब ये I think she said it's Koreans ने किया है इनके साथ, and all those things. कहती she will, and this person was a non-vegetarian before she became vegetarian, so she has the taste of non-vegetarian. I don't know why she became vegetarian. I never asked her that. So she said, if you ask them, मतलब कि pork dish, it will bloody well taste like pork. I said, okay. So then she took me here. वो कुछ चाइनीज ही आए थे, उन्होंने अपना रेस्टोरेंट को, यार वो नवरात्र में इतना बेशरम इंसान हूँ, मैंने सारे नॉन वेजिटेरियन डिश ऑर्डर किए. दे एक्चुअली टेस्टेड लाइक दैट. मतलब थे वो वेजिटेरियन बट दे टेस्टेड लाइक दैट. सो डिड यू एनकाउंटर दोज रेस्टोरेंट्स व्हेन यू वर देयर एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम?
No, earlier no, but now yes, there are so many. So you can find these Buddhist restaurants, they call it as. But otherwise
exactly.
also, I mean, my point is that it is not necessary that you have to go to a Buddhist restaurant to eat a vegetarian food, unless until you are very choosy, as you just mentioned,
नहीं,
soya
उसका तो
sauce
था
and
ना कि
oyster
उसको
sauce and
उसको हाँ,
yeah.
उसका वही था कि उसको था कि भाई इनको बोलो ये तब भी वो कर दे. I don't want to do that. So that's why she chose to go to these monk restaurants, right? Where there will be no meat served, right?
Absolutely.
And everything will be catered to the specifications because monks come and eat there. And she said कि यार the food was not expensive also. कहते वो एक तो वो डिश इतने बड़े बड़े उसमें लेके आ जाते थे, the big bowls. You cannot finish it. So कहती हमारे लिए एक ले आओ, वो 4 लोग खाएंगे तब भी खत्म नहीं होएगा. The quantity was quite big. I don't know about other places, but that's what this is 2012 she told me.
But one of the things which which people don't understand about China and very, very strange for them is that every university, the mess will also have one separate, place where food is served, especially for the Muslims, basically the halal meat, you know. So they had a separate counter for the halal food and the normal food. So that is always served in most of the places, which I mean, which is
Even
not
when you went for the
popular in
first
India.
time, even when you
Yes,
went for the first time. Okay,
yes.
interesting. But इनकी Muslim population तो बहुत ही कम है.
Xinjiang people, they serve for them. Xinjiang people also, I mean, they were traveling here and there. It is also because there's reservations in universities for, some kind of, reservation where you can have the Xinjiang people. And then now, of course, the foreigners, Muslims are coming and, yeah,
They
for
have to
them.
cater. Maybe I'm surprised at that point of time भी वो करते because again this is where breaking the myth comes in. हमें दिखाया जाता है कि इनके मस्जिद, दे ब्रेक देयर मॉस्क्स एंड
mm,
दे मेड टॉयलेट्स आउट ऑफ देम और मेड बार्स आउट ऑफ देम. But you're saying that they were catering to that population by
yes,
giving them halal food, and this is
yeah,
more around 2 decades back, right?
mm.
And so they were catering to their population. मेरा ना
And
एक क्वेश्चन है आपसे.
there were
कुछ.
Xinjiang restaurants which were very popular among the people.
Yeah, and
Even
a lot
today,
of
of course, but yeah,
Mongolians also come and work in China
yes,
as well, right?
right,
Uh,
right.
the question I have for you is, no, this is a very loaded question, right? When you went first versus when
Mm.
you are now, or even in between, does the was the government at that point of time, if you compare these governments over the like two or 3 decades, I don't know how many
Mm.
decades. So I said 2 decades, right?
Mm.
Uh, pre Xi Jinping era, right, and post and current Xi Jinping era, right? Do you think what's the behavior of the government towards the people, their own people, before and after, abhi, pre and current Xi Jinping era? Has it changed? Has it worsened, or has it become better? So, अगर आपका है, and then
So,
do it with the context of the same context with the lens
mm,
from an Indian perspective when you look at
mm,
what our government does. Because मैं एक like for like comparison चाहता हूँ, not just
mm,
you making a commentary, because you are Indian and they're Chinese.
mm.
हम दोनों को थर्ड वर्ल्ड ही माना जाता है, इवन दो आई वुड नॉट कंसिडर चाइना टू बी स्टिल अ थर्ड वर्ल्ड, आई कंसिडर सेकंड वर्ल्ड, आई नॉट से फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड. बट if you do a comparison, ये when it comes to their own people, how they are treating them, अगर आप इसका बोल
Mm.
सको तो. Thank
So earlier, as I said, of course, they do not discriminate between men and women. But earlier, everything was provided by the state to them. So whether it is your jobs or their welfare, their medical, everything was taken care of by the state. So they didn't have to worry about all of these things. Even their, food and clothing. So they used to go and get it from their, stores. So it was like rationed to them. So everyone felt that they were really privileged to get everything from the state. And gradually, this capitalist thing started coming where they had to contribute, to the state. So that was very unhappy moments for many of the Chinese, because they had to start contributing, and the salaries were very low. But increasingly the salaries went up. Now the situation is different. The state, this notion that the Chinese state does not care about the people, it's the other way around. Chinese state actually cares about their people a lot, you know for all kinds of welfare. I mean, if you have a problem within the university or within your organization anywhere, you can always approach your seniors and they will take care of you. So they're very, very, cooperative among each other. And if you have a problem, you can always go to your local state and local authorities. And these are always a parallel system of the party as well. And party is very approachable to everyone. It is not like that, system that you fear your party and you can't approach. Of course, I mean, problems are there. It's not that, people are not protesting, people are not unhappy with the, the corruption which happened in between period. I'm just comparing today's and other, the older one. So look, ordinary corruption is very less. So you don't find local corruption so very frequent where, say for in India, if you are on the street and you happen to have some accident, 99.9% of the chances I will not approach a police officer to resolve my problem, right? Because I believe that he or she might be only taking bribe or whatever. And I don't still have the guarantee the system which will take years to resolve, and I would get some kind of justice or may not get a justice, sort of thing. But in terms of the Chinese, I think the system functions. There are proper systems for everything and they function. So everything is so very systematized that you do not have to worry about routine things, and state takes care of it. So within the community, wherever you are locating, You have, they call it as uye. Uye is basically like a residence, welfare person. They will come for all kinds of facilities. You have 24 hours of water and electricity and all of that. I'm not talking about the quality of it. I'm just talking that you will have, right? So if you have some problem within the house, that OEA person is responsible. He'll come and help. And otherwise, there are local, party people also who will be very helpful. So you will have all these people as volunteers there, uh, by the state, and they're paid by the state. Okay, who would be always there to help you out. Now, of course, now because they move towards a very capitalist system, very materialistic way of doing things, so you have to pay for your insurance, you have to pay for your other things. So it has become like that. You have to buy a commercial house, you will have to spend your lot of money, but the state will also provide it. You know, so once they implement things, or make it as a policy, everyone at the local level is, given that benefit of the policy, and nobody is like saying that, oh, that person is taking it, in a wrong manner. I'm not getting it. That kind of corruption never happens. You know? And you don't have to worry about how that is implemented. So if a state policy is giving you, they give tipao. Tipao is the minimum subsistence allowance sort of thing for the marginalized section of the society, where very poor ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is given by the state, right? So I don't have to sit down, do 2000 paperwork to wait and watch whether the state will provide or not. The state will provide. So it is their local volunteers are there who will help you guide through all of these things and do it. The only problem I think in the state that happens in China is between, when you are from a rural area and you move towards the urban area, because there is a complete distinction between the urban
Correct.
benefits and the rural benefits. Okay,
Okay.
so the rural benefits will not be.
Uh, am I right to assume? And this is, I saw a whole documentary on this, where, say for example, uh, you're moving from a rural area. You can take a name of this, and they're moving to Beijing, or what's the other main cities of these?
Okay, 1 minute, 1 minute. I'll correct
Hmm,
you here. In
hmm.
China, moving from a rural place to an urban does not mean moving from very far away and to Beijing, because all the cities were surrounded by rural areas. That was the
Yeah,
way
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
state
yeah.
was.
But,
Okay,
the
so you could
reason,
be just moving from
correct,
outside of
correct, correct,
Beijing to
correct.
Beijing. Yeah,
Ah, correct, correct. But I'm talking about these rural areas, जो थोड़ा दूर भी हो गए, and they're moving to, because this is something which
yeah,
we were
you can
discussing
move.
is,
Yeah,
there is this imaginary line which is 70-30. Yeah, it may be 80-20 actually. There's a very small portion. अगर आप चाइना का मैप देखोगे, and on the left right hand side, that's where majority 80% of your population is. The rest of the China is sparsely populated because of the terrain and all those kind of things. It's like Australia ki 60-65% of the population is in just two cities. One is Sydney and Melbourne. आपका वैसे Beijing being one of them, the other is वो एस से कौन सी है,
Shenzhen, Shanghai,
huh? Shanghai,
Shenzhen, Shanghai,
Shenzhen is another one, and Shenzhen is your electronics capital, correct?
uh,
Electronics capital.
special
हाँ,
economic zone. Yeah.
कैपिटल ऐसे 3-4 सिटी दी हैं आपकी जहाँ पर मेजोरिटी, सो देर इज एन 80% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन. वो मैं दिखा भी दूंगा मैप में आपको बाद में, नॉट फॉर यू बट फॉर द अदर्स, दैट यू विल सी देयर इज अ वेरी स्मॉल पॉपुलेशन जहाँ पोर्शन जहाँ 80% ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन है, and 20% of the population is in the vast areas, because it's not usable and all those things. And उसी में वजह से a lot of people, they are moving from there to work, just to work. But the problem with the system is, and correct me where I'm wrong, is that you will not get benefits in the new city, right? You'll only get benefits in your home city, home place, right? So what has happened is, these husband and wife go and work in these cities without any benefits or anything, right? They live in these pigeon small rooms and all those kind of things, so that they can save money for their kids, because again it's a very similar structure like India. वो भी अपने बच्चों के लिए अपना किडनी स्टोन सब कुछ बेच देंगे. इट्स वेरी सिमिलर. एंड द किड्स आर नाउ बेसिकली, वो रूरल एरिया में द किड्स उनको पाल रहे हैं, उनके ग्रैंडफादर एंड ग्रैंड मदर इन द ओल्ड एज बेचारे वो दे आर वर्किंग. सो देयर वाज दिस ह्यूज पॉपुलेशन ऑफ दोज ऑल्सो, बिकॉज Because if they get the kids to one of these cities, like if it's Beijing or this, they will not get school admission because
Yes.
they're supposed to be there, because the government
Yeah.
doesn't want this movement of this, and it's highly. So am I right or wrong?
Uh,
What I had saw the documentary.
so migration, they call it as a rural to urban migration, was a major problem. Now they are trying to resolve it up. But the rural people, because China has a compulsory education system. Okay,
Hmm.
so every school kid has to go to the to school, and they it is the local authorities who will ensure that the kid goes to the school, and they will get their meals and everything out there. So if the rural couple moves to urban center and they take the children there, they will not be able to get the education in the urban center because it is very
एडमिशन ही नहीं मिलेगा
segregated.
ना, एडमिशन
Yeah,
एडमिशन
they
ही नहीं
they
देंगे.
they have something called as a hukou. It's like a ration card sort of thing,
Yes, 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 yes,
and
yes, yes,
and
that's
they're
right.
reforming that. Now there's a lot of reform in that, and I can't talk in that detail right now. But at least with that hukou, you will have the privileges attached to it. So you are like a citizen of that place only when you have that hukou. Okay, so that will ensure what benefits you can get in that place, whether it is in city or whatever. So urban centers were like partially closed doors for the rural areas. The rural areas, you have to be rural. People have to live in rural areas and get those benefits. So most of the time, when the women were moving, that this whole industrialization happened in China. It was the women who were moving, and the families were taking, the grandparents or anybody were taking care of the kids, and so there it is, the state takes care of it, but because of the system per se, the privileges cannot be entertained in the urban area. It was that
Yeah.
you have to have your hukou to get
And
that.
they were forced to keep the kid. So there were ways to get around it, but there was like a penalty you had to pay and all those kind of things, and normal people couldn't pay that. मैं वो पूरा डॉक्यूमेंट्री देख रहा था उसका. अब तो
You
never.
cannot
So,
get the benefits not through maneuvering around. That is not possible. You
so,
will
so
have to
they
have the urban
वही
residence
वो
permit.
how वही वो penalty वो time था and all those kind of things
Hmm.
वो discuss कर, but I think they're changing that now. The the other thing which I found in one of the documentaries जो अभी recently मैंने देखी, which is for the people who want to know about more about this ना, there's the YouTube channel called China Uncensored. अगर वो देखोगे, I don't know if you're aware of that one. वो थोड़ा वो funny take लेते हैं, but they do talk about they talk predominantly of
I know
China,
about
which
that.
is
Yeah.
yeah, you know about the China, so you know about that guy which I'm talking about.
Hmm.
So, and they have, he has a Taiwanese lady also who sits with him. So I've been watching it for like 6 years. So there was a new documentary I saw recently, not on China Uncensored, was that, और इसमें अभी हम बात नहीं करेंगे because this is the whole topic for new discussion,
Hmm.
is their credit system जो उन्होंने launch कर दिया है,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? और वो credit system की वजह से, and if you're not doing the D, you basically cannot even travel in the local train outside the city, but like outside the state. वो बड़ा ही खतरनाक है. एंड वो क्रेडिट सिस्टम से पहले व्हाट दे वर डूइंग वाज कि अगर आपने अपना इनकम टैक्स नहीं दिया, कुछ नहीं किया, ऐसा नहीं है कि आपके घर पे उठा के ले जाते हैं. व्हाट वन ऑफ द प्रोविंस डिड वाज दे गॉट द नेम ऑफ ऑल दीज पीपल, और जो मूवी स्टार्ट होती है उससे पहले उनके पब्लिश करने लग गए. Out of shame, people started paying their taxes. The ones who were defaulting and all of those. So ऐसा ही उनका कल्चर भी अभी भी बहुत है. वो name and shame is still a very big thing.
Yes,
It's a very
face is something which is very significant and important for Chinese. So they would,
मैं मैं एक ही चीज पूछूंगा and then I think we'll end it with this now,
yeah,
because even though हमारा structured नहीं था, I think it still went quite a large extent to a structured this, and we realized before even starting this कि ये तो एक में नहीं होगा. 5-6 people said कि it'll be a series. मुझे लग रहा है I'm enjoying it, and again after post this I'll speak to Geeta ma'am if she wants to continue this series or not, because this is a taxing thing. Chinese people and and their concept of trust,
Hmm.
right? ये क्या क्या है, ये कैसा है? पहले आप जवाब दो, फिर मैं बताऊंगा मैंने ये सवाल क्यों पूछा.
Okay, so you mean to say whether we can trust the Chinese or not, or
नहीं
how
नहीं
do we
नहीं नहीं
think,
नहीं,
right? Hmm.
नहीं, वी नहीं.
Yeah, among themselves.
उनके व्यू पॉइंट से, उनके व्यू, मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ. जब मैं शुरू में ऑस्ट्रेलिया आया ना, राइट, आई आई वेंट टू अ चाइनीज फास्ट फूड वाला, नहीं होता, यू पैक
Hmm.
योर स्टफ एंड यू टेक इट, राइट.
Yeah,
बैठने की
yeah.
भी तीन चार जगह थी, बट मोस्टली आई वाज लाइक, आई
Hmm.
पैक इट, आई टेक इट फॉर माई सेल्फ एंड माई ब्रदर एंड विल गो फॉर इट, राइट. सो उसने क्या बोला कि मेरे को, मैंने उसको ना उसने वो बोला कि जो भी कुछ अपनी, उसने बोला कि व्हाट्स योर नेम, मैंने बोल दिया जो भी उसने लिखा, उसने टूटी फूटी में 10 मिनट में बोल दिया कि ए. So I went to collect the money, and this is my observation, and that's the reason why I asked you this question. So I am standing, and she's standing at the other side. वो बीच में वो होता ना, वो आपका टेबल लगा हुआ है, उस तरफ उसका खाना and all those things. So I have to give, say for I have to give $15 or $20, whatever they want. That's illegal. ज़्यादा भी नहीं था, मतलब वो जो होता है ना, वो फास्ट फूड वाले जो भी. So she said, एक तो ये 15 साल 20 साल से भी ऑस्ट्रेलिया में बैठे अंग्रेजी नहीं सीखेंगे, अंग्रेजी नहीं सीखेंगे, ये एक और प्रॉब्लम है मैंने देखी है.
Absolutely.
अंग्रेजी नहीं सीखेंगे. मैंने एक बार चाइनीज उनको बोल भी दिया, हाउ मेनी ईयर्स हियर, कहती 15 ईयर्स. मैं कहा स्टिल नो इंग्लिश. मैं बोल दिया स्टिल नो इंग्लिश. मैं बोल दिया उनको, वो सीखना ही नहीं उन्होंने, क्यों, जरूरत ही नहीं है उनको. हाँ. तो वो कहती मनी, मैं हाउ मच, कहती जो भी $10 $15. ओके, अब मैं उसको दे रहा हूँ, एंड सडनली आई रियलाइज दिस एंड आई फाउंड इट वेरी ऑफेंसिव. मैंने उसको कुछ बोला नहीं. डू यू नो लाइक हाउ शी वाज स्टैंडिंग, एंड दिस इज, कहते हैं ना, ऑब्जर्वेशंस टेल यू अबाउट द कल्चर इन पीपल. शी हैज द थिंग इन हर हैंड, राइट. शी हैज हर हैंड टू ask for money. This packet is not towards you, it's like this. So till the time I don't get the money, I will not give you the packet.
Yeah.
Distrust, देख रहे हो.
Hmm.
And I guess I was new there. It's only a month there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I was like, her packet is like this and this. And I go to other places. Yeah, it was not like that. So I went, and I gave her the money, and I went, and then I asked my brother, who was here for much longer than me. I said, यार मैंने आज ही गया तो मैंने ये ऑब्जर्व किया, ऐसा क्यों है. So he gave me an answer. उसका एक हमेशा एक अलग ही टेक होता है. But you tell me, ये मेरा ऑब्जर्वेशन था, and that was the reason why I asked you this question. कि was what is the take of these people like in terms of trust towards others. मैं चाइनीज की बात नहीं कर रहा, towards outsiders.
Yeah,
How do they
so
look at us?
for the Chinese, it is a very clear distinction between themselves and others, okay, including for their own, like the Han, because there is a superiority of the Han in China. They feel Han is one superior culture, and all the others are barbarians, or the outsiders are the barbarians. So they have a very strong sense that they live together in one, community as a united thing, and that community sense is very, very strong among them. But outside that community, everyone is a outsider whom they would never give that space or trust. So if you want to be a part of that, either you get, you know uh, through intermarriages or whatever, and get into that community, and yet you remain as an outsider. You understand? So suppose I have family ties with them. I'm married, my husband is from China, or I am a Chinese and my husband is a non-Chinese. So whosoever is a non-Chinese would be seen as an outsider. So they will not disclose many of the things to that outsider. They will not, have 100% trust on that person. you know so that sense is there through old civilizations. It's not a new thing, but it is there even before, PRC was established in 1949. So that continues, and with the notions that are being instilled by the communist regime, this notion has only intensified in its nature, that not have 100% trust on the outsiders or foreigners, because they would come and exploit you, and they will you know destroy you, or they will take advantage of you, or whatever. So those notions are very, very strong. That would never change. I don't think that will change. But for their own community, they have a sense of oneness. So they will be very helpful to their own people. They would be very supportive. Generally, Chinese are very positive people, so they will think very positive and pragmatic things, but only for the own community. For the outsiders, it will be having a very negative opinion. You know, no matter how good you have been, you may be having friendship with them for 10 years, but even with that 10 years of close friendship, they will only keep that distance with you. So, and this happens within a husband wife also. So suppose a Chinese woman is married to a you know to any foreigner, she will continue with this distrust all her life, that sense of gap, which I think many people don't understand this, because they think, oh, this Chinese is very nice to me. She's because हम लोग एक character होता है Chinese का, which is called as run, okay, which generally they translate it as benevolence, but basically it is the on top it is a knife, on bottom it is a heart, right? So that benevolence is basically a knife in the heart. You understand the connotations now. So Chinese
No,
will always go.
that's true. That's quite deep actually. If you look at it from a philosophical point of
Yes.
view,
So that is how it goes in their culture. So you will have to actually understand that no matter how
नहीं पर
sweet, how
उसमें
nice they are.
I थोड़ा बहुत understand because I've seen the old historical cultural movies of it. उसमें the woman is always kind of the suppressed giving person, right? तो उसमें उसको पास राइट्स भी ज़्यादा नहीं होती थी पुराने वाले पोस्ट द कल्चरल एवोल्यूशन. अगर आप देखो भी ना, इवन इन what I have seen from this, and you can correct me on this, is even though that's changed after post 1979 or this, but still अगर आप पुराने वाले उनसे बात करोगे, वो डोमिनेंस वो मेल का ही रहता था वहाँ पर. एंड वन ऑफ द थिंग इज यू कैन सी इज जो जो इन्होंने 1979 वन चाइल्ड पॉलिसी करी, दे क्रिएटेड दिस प्रॉब्लम ऑफ ऑर्फन गर्ल्स जो बहुत सारे हुए बिकॉज ऑफ प्रेगनेंसीज. एंड वो इंडिया में कहते हैं ना, ये फीमेल फिटिसाइड सबसे ज़्यादा तो चाइनीज में हुआ, बिकॉज इनको भी बीमारी है, इनको लड़का चाहिए. वो इंडियंस की तरह इनको भी लड़का चाहिए. क्यों? क्योंकि हु इज गोना टेक केयर ऑफ अस. एंड उस पर मैं वो बाद में डिस्कस करूंगा आपसे सेकेंड टाइम, where I told you about the incident where I spoke to one of the guy who 1:7 वाला जो ratio था, and I would want others to know about that whole story because I think you'll be adding more dimensions to it. But ये मैंने देखा है कि because I've interacted with both their parents in this, जो जो difference I can see between the first generation and the second generation Australians जो first जो आए थे versus how the interaction happens, वो that tells you about the society. उसमें मेरे को काफ़ी कुछ ना, I find it to a large extent the relevance of what Indian culture is. मुझे काफ़ी कुछ सिमिलैरिटी लगी. ये मेरा व्यू पॉइंट था. मुझे काफ़ी सिमिलैरिटी लगी. वो जो अपना वो एक वो क्या बोलते हैं, हायरार्किकल सिस्टम जो है ना, मतलब जैसे वैसे वो बेटा या बेटी बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट अपने माँ बाप से बहस नहीं करेगा. जो उन्होंने बोल दिया इट्स द फाइनल थिंग. उसमें भी बीवी अपने पति से एक बियॉन्ड अ पॉइंट बहस नहीं करेगी. हाँ, देयर आर केसेस वेयर द वाइफ इज मोर डोमिनेंट, बट फिर देन द हस्बैंड इज नॉट डोमिनेंट. वो देन द रोल रिवर्सल, वो एक रहता है उसमें. ये कोई वो नहीं होता कि वो कहते ना वो ओके वो we'll do a voting system. No, it is very much hierarchical system like the Indian system, where one person is dominant in the end, either it's the male or the female, and you have to. The final call is taken by them. ये मैंने देखा अपने सामने होते हुए. And
So let me just end you with this here, that one myth is that China is one homogeneous community. It is not. It is as
Correct.
heterogeneous as India is. You know, the point that you're making about the hierarchy or the male domination, of course, that runs across China. But on the northern part of China, it is more about, male dominating. And on the, if you go to this, eastern coastal regions like the Shanghai, Zhejiang, and all, it's the woman which is dominating, including even in some parts of Yunnan. That's the southern part, right? So, but having a male child was the concept which was prevalent in China, but that has reversed now. Today, they feel having a girl child, because women are there in every, space, and so having a
नहीं,
girl child
क्योंकि
is more
क्योंकि क्योंकि
important.
क्योंकि
And the
लड़के
dowry system
लड़के
is,
लड़के पैदा होके भी अपने माँ बाप का ख्याल नहीं रख रहे, और लड़की रख रही है, तो that
no,
is true.
also because the dowry system out there is reversed, right? There the man has to, be wealthy enough to give to the parents. So it's like the woman goes, so their parents, like the groom has to give to the bride's parents, the dowry for taking
And
the bride.
there's the rational behind it, क्योंकि भाई उसका कौन
Yeah,
ख्याल रखेगा उन माँ बाप का, and this
उनका
is will
ख्याल
come,
कौन रखेगा, हाँ, उनको
yeah,
पाला किसने, all that stuff,
we'll
so
come to that,
so we'll,
वो
yeah,
two people marry and then they have to take care of seven people, वो logic जो we'll come to
yeah,
next time
yeah,
on this
yeah,
one. And then
चलो,
I think we've already gone more than 2 hours 15 minutes. मैं
yeah.
स्टार्ट दे देता हूँ, बिकॉज मेरे को गीता मैम को बोलना है, इन्होंने बोला था 10 लोग देखेंगे। देखो मैं यूट्यूब के नहीं दे रहा आपको, ठीक है, यूट्यूब पे तो हार्डली कोई 5-6 लोग देख रहे होंगे, 10 लोग देख रहे होंगे। इट्स 233 पीपल, 223 पीपल जस्ट ऑन एक्स, ठीक है। तो ऐसा नहीं है, आपकी चीज़ें लोगों को, और विदाउट इन्फॉर्मिंग पीपल, राइट? सो नेक्स्ट टाइम इफ यू डू दैट विल बी इवन बेटर।
Yeah,
But I think it was good, and thanks
yeah.
everybody who was watching. गंदे लोगों, यूट्यूब पे भी देख लो यार, मेरा यूट्यूब चैनल भी।
हम बाद में प्रमोट कर देंगे उसको.
That's okay, that's okay. नहीं नहीं, यूट्यूब का the only thing is that कि it stays more, and ठीक है, it's okay, people want to watch it, we are more interested in if people can get it on this one, but ठीक है, I hope we'll continue this conversation, like slowly peeling off the different layers of this. I will also always see this is another great culture, क्योंकि अगर आपको, मेरे हिसाब से there are 3-4 cultures जो अभी, 3 cultures जो अभी तक एग्जिस्ट करते हैं। वन इज द इंडियन कल्चर, राइट, जिसको अपने हिंदुस्तान का कल्चर बोलते हैं, वो अभी तक एग्जिस्ट करता है, वो गायब नहीं हो गया, लाइक द मायंस गायब हो गए, एस्टेक गायब हो गए, ठीक है। इजिप्शियंस, दे आर ऑल्सो स्टिल सर्वाइविंग, राइट। द थर्ड इज द चाइनीज, ये थाउजेंड्स ऑफ ईयर्स से हम सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं। सो आई हैव लॉट ऑफ रिस्पेक्ट फॉर द चाइनीज and all these ancient cultures जो हम सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं, they're not disappeared, the others have disappeared, the Greek culture has disappeared, right, the Romans have disappeared, but these cultures have still survived all through the time. So I have respect for them. We might have differences nowadays on this one, I'll not
Yeah.
get into the political differences, but from a cultural aspect of it, we, the Chinese, the Indians, they all from their point of view have done a lot. पेपर चाइना ने बनाया था पहली बारी, आपके जो वो कैनन्स बनाए थे, वो गन पाउडर चाइना ने बनाया था
Gunpowder,
पहले,
yeah.
गन पाउडर चाइना ने पहले बनाया था। तो लॉट ऑफ, अगर आप देखोगे ना, आपको लगता है जैसे इंडिया में हुए थे, चाइना ने भी बहुत इन्वेंशंस करे थे। वो प्रिंटिंग प्रेस इनकी थी पहले, राइट, प्रिंटिंग प्रेस इनकी थी, वो अलग बात है, इन्होंने पूरा यूज नहीं किया उसका, हैपेंस, बट विद
The
दैट
gunpowder, yeah.
या जो जैसे हमारे को आयुर्वेद है, चाइनीज ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन इज आल्सो, it's
Very good.
also very good in lot of things, it's very good, and it's far better than allopathic medicine, because वो natural remedies करते हैं। हाँ वो ठीक है, वो people know about this, वो हॉर्न के उससे वो करते हैं, वो ठीक है, that is one aspect of it, but there are normal things, अगर आप, and that's something I wanted to ask you next time, कि ये जो चाइनीज मेडिसिन है, इसका यूसेज कैसा है, व्हाट वाज योर पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंसेस एंड ऑल दोस काइंड ऑफ थिंग, क्योंकि वो भी एक तरीके का हर्बल ही है, राइट, एंड दे
I've tried.
एंड द अदर थिंग आई वुड, ये नेक्स्ट टाइम के लिए प्लीज मैम याद रखना, एंड द अदर थिंग इज कि there is a whole wing of promoting the Chinese medicines into the wider world, and China
Yeah.
is doing a lot for that. Or why we are not promoting Ayurveda the way these guys are. तो ये एक टॉपिक ऑफ
Hmm.
डिस्कशन भी होएगा, बिकॉज आई थिंक वी शुड
Hmm.
appreciate the ones who are doing their job good, and
Yeah.
also show our people why we are not. But with that,
Hmm.
Geeta ma'am, if you want to say some final words before I end the stream, but thank you again. मैं तो इतना ही बोलूँगा कि you agreed to come to this guy who's never prepared for anything, tolerated me, or for people who don't know. If you want to catch Geeta ma'am on an ongoing basis, please follow her Twitter ID. वो नीचे जा रहा है तब से. Follow her, and you will see her quite often come to Twitter Spaces, especially on mine. I don't know, Geeta ma'am आ जाती है मेरी
सब
Spaces
पे
पे.
नहीं जाती मैं, but yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
हाँ, मेरी स्पेसेस पे काफ़ी क्वाइट ऑफन आ जाती हैं, एंड यू कैन एक्चुअली इंटरेक्ट विद हर एंड आस्क हर क्वेश्चंस डायरेक्टली,
Hmm.
नॉट जस्ट ऑन अ टेक्स्ट बेसिस. एंड
Hmm.
मैंने देखा
Hmm.
गीता मैम एटलीस्ट हफ्ते में 2-3 बार ही आ जाती है, मे बी नॉट दैट
Hmm.
लॉन्ग बट आ जाती है, एंड शी इज क्वाइट अप्रोचेबल. सो इफ यू वांट टू आस्क हर about JNU, the life in JNU, about China or
Hmm.
anything like that. So China, nahi. I generally don't ask about China that much. I ask about JNU, the university, Delhi University culture, and all those things. She gives a lot of good insight. So please come ask her that question. Follow her first. तभी आपको पता चलेगा कि वो लाइव जा रही है कि नहीं. ट्विटर पे उनको फॉलो करो. ठीक है. If you like this, please go to her Twitter. This tag her onto something. Say nice about Geeta ma'am. She comes here. थोड़ा कुछ अच्छा भी बोल दो यार. उनको अच्छा लगता है यार. उनको अच्छा लगता है. People like if you want to ask a question, tag her and ask her that question. Maybe we'll pick it up next time. Right?
Hmm.
गीता मैम से पूछोगे तो ज़्यादा अच्छा, मुझसे पूछोगे मैं तो भूल जाता हूँ. Geeta ma'am can pick it up. But especially if you have some questions for next time, please ask. And with that, Geeta ma'am, your final words, and then we'll end it. It's already 2 hours 20 minutes. Please,
And it must be very late for you, but
that's a
I
lot.
think, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of misconceptions and gaps in understanding between Indians and Chinese, which really need to root out. We need to, go deeper into their culture, amalgamate with them, and try to understand them much better, not by the lenses that wear by the Western, way of looking at things. As you rightly said, we are very, great cultures, very old civilization, and so we have certain things which are very unique to our own civilization. And if you want to interact with the civilization, you have to go deeper into that civilization, to understand that how for the ages they have evolved, try to protect their own identity, so to say, by the invasions that could have happened, and the pressures that happened from the outside world. And so I think, as the myths the Chinese have about India, the Indians also have a lot of myths about China, and we should avoid getting into extreme understandings about a culture because it's so very diverse, and yet find out a common ground. Having said that, I think people would definitely criticize me, saying, "Don't you know that Xi Jinping is an authoritative one-party rule and all of that?" And we are not talking about the politics out here. Politics is completely different ball game. Of course, it has shaped the Chinese are today, and it will impact for a long period of time. But there are other things which we can explore. So I think, as the Chinese are so inquisitive about us and they meet us and ask 2,000 questions, Indians should become so proactive to ask at least, if not 2,000, at least 1,000 questions to them as well. Yeah, that's it.
Matlab, we have already given them enough of juice to come back. And
Come
if
back.
you want
Yeah.
Geeta ma'am to come back on this one, and because देखो ऐसा है कि she is a very busy lady, मजबूरी में देखो हम we have to call her like and request, no, not request, she's very approachable, but if there is a need for it, then if you
Mm.
think that there is, you want to hear it, please आप अपने questions लिखिए. That will only motivate Geeta ma'am to come and come more often on this one, because मेरे को तो लगता है if we start this series, it will be a long series where we
Yeah.
do. I personally I would want to do it slice by different aspects of it, Geeta ma'am has gone multiple years there, has stayed multiple for a very long duration there. इनका एक किस्सा भी है जहाँ पुलिस भी बुला ली गई थी, वो she had told me. And how the police actually worked with her in her favor and basically gave danda to the other person and she got her work done. ये भी एक story है. People should know about it. I was like intrigued. I said,
Yeah.
okay, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. So it's not like that's the things for, especially for people who are going for.
But
the
I
first
did not
time.
call the police, huh? This is the person who's calling.
The
Yeah.
other person called you. नहीं, but you became a gundi, na? You said call him. You become a
No,
gundi. Then you
it
said,
is
call
just
him.
that. No, because I was not at fault
we-
anyway. So.
Nee, we leave that question for everybody to figure
For
out
everyone
what
to
the story
understand
was.
what happened.
Yeah, but the point is, the person said on the other side, "I'll call the police," and she said, "Call them." And in the end, that
Indians, huh?
what happened? हाँ, imagine, हाँ, so चाइना में बैठ के उन्होंने चाइनीज को धमकी दे दी और एंड में उसी की बैंड बजा दी. That's a story for another day. हाँ, वो क्या था? If you want to hear that story, tell us. हाँ, we'll do a vote. Do you want to hear the story how Geeta ma'am turned the tables on a Chinese only in China? हाँ?
Yeah.
So ये भी एक story है. The things over there. I mean, we should know because see, what intrigued me was not about what you did. What I was happy about is ना क्योंकि you being a woman, right? It's very easy to, if you have male police officer coming and all those kinds of things, how you turn the table. And on this, it's a nice story, and maybe more women should hear it. Huh? ऐसा डरने की जरूरत नहीं होती. You don't have to be afraid of because of that. Not every police people are bad, right? If the approach you took was what I liked, and what was the end result? You got the something which you were trying to struggling for months. Anyway, we'll end with that. But thank you so much, and let's hope we'll have our next stream much sooner than before. And I won't say planned. It'll my streams are never planned, so it will. I won't even make that statement. I don't know. I think after again 3 weeks I'm coming, or I was supposed to do a stream every week. Anyway, I'll end the stream and just hold on for a second, ma'am. Thank you. Thank
And
you,
namaste
everybody.
to all your viewers, and thank you everyone for
Yes.
watching us. Yeah.
देखो, if I'm able to somehow download it और मेरे को नहीं आता, and then you might see it on Geeta ma'am's YouTube channel as well. पर उसकी कोई guarantee नहीं, मुझे downloading के system नहीं पता. Thank you everybody.